The Supreme Court holds that Harvard and UNC's programs, they violate the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment, folks. Finally, we've got the court, and they have corrected another awful 70s mistake. And they ruled that racially discriminatory college admissions are unconstitutional. The Supreme Court holds that Harvard and UNC's. So that's one thing to note here, folks. This is only two colleges, Harvard and UNC. These are kind of elitist colleges, right? They hold that Harvard and UNC's admissions programs, they violate the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. So based on nearly every metric across all regions and age groups, when the left gets control of education, the standards, they start to drop. Test scores, they start to plummet. Then the students, they're hurting. There's no better example than Illinois, folks. Look no further than your child in an Illinois school district. It's the left that is pushing to abolish AP classes, advanced placement classes, honors classes, because of racism. The left wants to abolish the ACT, the SAT scores from being used in college admissions because of racism. It's the left-controlled teachers' unions, which kept schools closed during COVID, leading to a historic collapse in test scores. There's probably no better example of this than the Chicago Teacher Union. The left that pushes sexually explicit content and radical gender ideology into our schools. You think that's good for their education? If they're constantly thinking about that nonsense, that crap? The left that won't let teachers punish misbehaving students, turning entire classrooms, entire schools into little more than dangerous zoos. That's what's going on. We should not be surprised that they are hell-bent on defying the Supreme Court of the United States anti-affirmative action ruling in their war on merit and excellence. There's nothing wrong with being excellent. The left has always they've misdiagnosed the real problems in education, rejecting all actual solutions in favor of the fake ones to make things worse at 4 times the cost. 309-451-9299. This is awesome. We should be celebrating. The court has finally corrected another awful 70s mistake. I've got so much to get to today. It's a Friday. Are you preparing for a long weekend? Maybe a long weekend trimming trees and cutting up tree trunks because all of the trees that got knocked down yesterday. So there was a tornado warning. When was it? It was about noon. It lasted until about 1 o'clock yesterday for the McLean County area. I've heard that Lincoln got really really bad. A lot of bad tree damage. I'd imagine, and I can't prove this. I'm not a scientist, right? But I think that because of the drought that we were in, the trees, right, were just so easy. It was like they were brittle. This is what I was kind of thinking of. I was like, maybe the trees are so brittle. That's why there's so much tree damage. That's what this storm was all about, was tree damage, tree damage, tree damage. Springfield, oh, I saw this dumpster and it crashed into a business. So one of these big dumpsters crashed into a business in downtown Springfield, and it just left a big old gaping hole. There was some hail. I didn't see any hail in our listening area. There was some hail up north. My parents, they live about an hour or so up north. They experienced some hail. So yeah, prayers up for all the damage. Hopefully you don't have to deal with too much damage and it's just kind of some knockdown trees that you got to chop up this weekend. But hey, at least you've got a long weekend to do it. Maybe you're out of power still. Hopefully you're listening to the radio, battery powered radio, or you're in your car driving to work today. I have looked at the Ameren. That is where you'd want to go to report an outage if you're um, using Ameren power. That's where I go to look at, I mean, thousands upon thousands of power outages, mainly to the south. Lincoln, Atlanta, I've heard has a lot of power outages. So praying for you all, hoping that your long weekend gets better. So, first, what are we talking about here in the 6 o'clock hour? CNN, they are declaring that the Supreme Court of the United States decision on affirmative action will destroy our military. Whoa, that's a jump. Wait, what are you talking about, CNN? Next, the issue this is an issue every single year. That's what police tell this TikToker. So there's a TikToker. He's kind of famous. He's got a following in Canada. So this is all Canadian police. They tell this TikToker, he films him talking to the police about the naked men in front of children. And he says, well, that's okay. The police officer says, well, that's okay because it's at a pride parade. It's not okay any other time. What? So that's what was going on in Toronto. There was a pride parade. It was sponsored by Bud Light, and there was a bunch of naked men. It also happened here in the United States, and I wouldn't be shocked if we got a similar response from the police officers in Seattle, Chicago. Hey, because it's pride, it's okay. Later, we are going to be going through the body cam footage of this cop in Allen, Texas. So you guys remember the Allen, Texas mall shooting. Well, now we have the body footage. It's been released and it just shows the true heroism in action. And folks, people always say, why don't the cops do anything in Chicago? Why don't they do anything in places like San Francisco? You want to know why? It's likely because all the good cops left. They're gone. They went to southern states. They went to states like Texas. They went to states like Nashville. I mean, this body cam footage just shows the true heroism. So we're going to get into all of that here on the Morning Buzz. As always, I am live on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube. You can check it out there. Be sure to subscribe. That's a huge thing for us, folks. I can't even begin to tell you if you don't subscribe to the channel. I don't know what you're doing. Are you afraid to subscribe to the channel? Are you afraid to like the video? You got to smash the like button. That really helps us out. And be sure to visit our advertisers always, especially this weekend. Try to shop local. Just try to shop local. All right, let's get into it. Now, if you were playing a little bit of I like to do this. This is something I do all of the time. It's called Twitter roulette. So I just kind of close my eyes and scroll on my phone and I select a Twitter post to read and to try to figure out the news behind it. So this was trending all day yesterday. The Supreme Court of the United States ruling against affirmative action. Woo, woo! Can I get heck yeah? So Twitter roulette. I was playing that, closed my eyes, was scrolling to see what I would get. You're going to get likely a leftist at this point on Twitter whining about the Supreme Court siding on the right side of history yesterday and voting against affirmative action. So I landed on, of course, CNN. Laura Coates is her name. So she is a journalismer. And the Supreme Court of the United States decision apparently is going to ruin everything from IKEA, yes, IKEA, to the American military not being able to fight a war. Yes, a war. Keep in mind, the decision ruled against racist admission policies at Harvard and North Carolina. Finally, the Asian community is going to be treated fairly. That's what this decision is all about, folks. Harvard and North Carolina. That's it. That's all it applies to. Laura Coates, she frets that affirmative action is going to be the demise and it's going to affect everything from IKEA to war. Quote, this is from Laura Coates on CNN. She says, admirals, a group of them, and generals also told the court that, quote, diversity in the halls of academia directly affect performance of the theaters in war. So directly affects your performance in war. That's what Laura Coates says. So of course she's siding with the experts on this one. I thought the Supreme Court were the experts here, folks. Let's take a listen to Laura Coates on CNN. And as always, I'm live in studio so you guys can see the video from CNN if you're watching there. Let's take a listen. Here we go.
This has, I think, been held for 40 years that affirmative action has been in place. Now they have upended that. Stare decisis, as you attorneys call it, it's no longer in this case. What do you make of this decision and what it means to those going to college now and to the universities themselves?
Well, I don't think we can even overstate the role that race has played in our society as a country. And it also is a very big part of one's identity. And so part of the college admissions process is the practice of a student, a potential applicant, detailing why they believe their identity and being ought to be an additive addition to a particular school. Now, it'll be very hard for an admissions process and an admissions office to delineate between how a student views themselves and their identity and what can now be considered in practice. An example that came up during the Supreme Court oral arguments is the idea of, well, what about a student who is writing about their personal identity as it relates to their race? Is the admissions office to look at that essay, burn it, throw it out and say, I cannot see this here because it deals with race? And I want to read for you a quick notion here. I know we're short on time, but the monumental consequence of the decision cannot be overstated. Everyone from Apple to IKEA to Starbucks joined in briefs to talk about racial diversity, improving decision-making by increasing creativity, communication, and accuracy. Some of the largest law firms in our country spoke about the private bar and the legal profession benefiting from a diverse pool of talent from which to recruit. Retired admirals, a group of them, and generals also told the court that, quote, diversity in the halls of academia directly affects performance in the theaters of war.
This has, I think, been...
Whoa! Okay. Laura Coates there, CNN. I believe she's siding here with, of course, I'm not a biologist, Ketanji Brown Jackson, her judicial appeal to authority legal theory. So what do I mean by that? The Supreme Court justices, they'll sit there and they should just follow the experts and what they tell them. These admirals, these generals, these retired people, they should just sit there and blindly say, yes, whatever the experts say. Come on now. I was under the impression that the Supreme Court justices were the experts in interpreting the Constitution. Our military is the one place. She says it's going to affect the performance of war. That's what she says. She's worried about this vote against affirmative action, and she says, well, we won't be able to fight in wars anymore. She went to that extreme. It's always the exaggeration with these people. Our military is the one place, I would think, where merit and your ability to do something should be the sole deciding factor on whether you get in or I just, literally life or death is on the line. And you'll have to forgive me if I question whether these admirals and these generals are being sincere or they're just saying, hey, yeah, affirmative action, right? We need that. I think they're just saying that for political reasons. Have you met the commander in chief? I mean, do you know who the commander in chief is? I like to call him the divider in chief, Joe Biden. I'm thinking, and I'm just taking a stab here, that the generals and the admirals that say this, that, oh my gosh, we're not going to be able to fight in war if we don't have affirmative action at 2 universities. My God, this is political reasons. Speaking of the appeal to authority fallacy and people saying that they have, and people saying that what they have to say for political reasons, right? So that's what I'm talking about. The appeal to authority, just follow blindly what the experts say. And then also these experts are just saying it because of political reasons. So again, this is her quote. She says, I know we're short on time, but the monumental consequences of the decision cannot be overstated. Everyone from Apple to IKEA to Starbucks joined in on briefs to talk about racial diversity, improving decision making, and increasing creativity, communication, and accuracy. Some of the largest law firms in our country talked about the private bar and the legal profession benefiting from a diverse pool to recruit. So she's talking about Apple, IKEA. Yes, nothing is stopping them from continuing to be diverse. That's the thing here, folks. Nothing is stopping them. Okay. But you have to go off of a merit based system. It cannot be the sole deciding factor if this person gets admitted into Harvard or North Carolina, just your race. It doesn't make sense. Unless what everyone from Apple to IKEA to Starbucks is saying is that the only reason they hired a racially diverse pool of recruits is because the law forced them to. No, nobody's like, what? Just because affirmative action was voted against by the Supreme Court, that doesn't mean that places like Starbucks, IKEA, blah, 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 Apple, right? It doesn't mean that they have to stop hiring Black people. What do you mean? And now that the law may or may not force them to, they're going to stop doing this. I don't understand. Oh, 309-451-9299. I like, what? You think that Starbucks is gonna magically stop hiring Black people just because affirmative action was voted against? It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. We're gonna come back. There is a Canadian TikToker who was very disturbed in seeing these naked men at this Pride parade in Toronto, Canada. And he calls the police and he asks them, "Hey, is this illegal?" And the police have a very interesting response. We've got that response here on the other side. As always, I'm live in studio 309-451-9299. That's a text line. You can text me there. I'll be back. Good morning, folks. All right, we're gonna be back. Robert Primo. Have you guys heard of this guy? I really like this guy. His name is Robert Primo, and he was disturbed to see naked men, of course, walking in the street of in front of little children. So he called the cops and he asked if it was legal. Turns out it is legal, but only at a pride parade. And this happened in Seattle, this happened in Chicago. Our Governor JB Pritzker, went to the Pride Parade. It's really quite funny. Anywhere, like any parade that JB goes to, it feels like he gets rained on. Now I don't know if that's the work of God or what, but uh what was it? There was a parade. I think it was a St. Patrick's Day parade, and he was walking, and it seemed to be like this single cloud just was following JB and just completely soaking him. Like, actually, this guy gets rained on at parades, and it seems like he's always the one that's just drenched. And maybe I'm wrong about that. Perhaps it's just the sweat from him walking all that way, but it seems like he gets rained on. But he got rained on, and he went to this LGBTQ pride parade in Chicago. And all I'm saying is that I'm just so glad that he kept his clothes on. DPB, David Paul Blumenschein, whom you can catch Sunday, 1 to 3. He coined it. He was like, gosh, could you imagine? And like, that's the thing, folks. I would love to see these politicians who advocate for things like pornography on the shelves of school libraries, public libraries, in the children's section. I've seen it with my own eyes. Okay. So you can't gaslight me, tell me that that's not happening. It is happening. I would love to see these politicians just sit down and read what's on the shelves in a children's section at a public library. JB, if you're so for the gay pride parades, why don't you take your clothes off with them and put the little star stickers on your nipples, right? Like, if you're so for it, then why don't you do it? Because we as human beings, I really do think, just have a natural disgust towards things that are amoral. What's going on in Toronto, what went on in Seattle, what went on in Chicago, all amoral crap and garbage, and we as humans just naturally despise that stuff. Okay, so we're gonna be back, we're gonna talk about that. Also, fun little news story for your 4th of July. Coming up, an act of heroism. So, the Allen, Texas cop who brought down the shooter. There was a mall, it was in a mall. This Allen, Texas body cam footage has now been released. And I mean, I'm just completely shocked that people would want to be a police officer. Like, after seeing videos like this, I don't know how people do it. This was true heroism in action. This body cam footage, I'm going to show it to you, and you can even hear in his voice, right? He's just doing a regular type of traffic stop, and he's talking to some kids about the importance of wearing a seatbelt. And then, like, in an instant, he hears those gunshots and he's like, "There's a shooting going on." And the mother, you can see, like, the mother with the children he was talking to, you can see the light just come out of her eyes. She grabs her children, she runs, and then the cop grabs his gun out of his, patrol car, and he just takes off in a sprint, and he goes towards the gunfire, and he doesn't wait for backup. He calls in for backup as he's running towards the gunfire, and it's just like, wow. The Allen, Texas body cam footage is out there, and I just take some time today to thank an officer. Send maybe the Normal Police Department, the Bloomington Police Department, a quick message on Facebook and just say, "Hey, thanks so much for all you do." There's good officers, there's bad officers, folks. And that brings me to this story. That's the issue every year. Those are words from a Canadian police officer in Toronto. Now, I'm sure that the Seattle police, I'm sure that the Chicago police would say the same thing about naked men in front of children being okay at a pride parade. So that's what the cop says to this Canadian TikToker who is pretty famous in Canada. He's got thousands of followers, millions of views, right? Here he is, this Canadian TikToker. He goes by the name Rob Primo, and he was very disturbed to see naked men walking around in the street, right? in front of children in Toronto, Canada. So he was walking around in front of little children, these naked men. So Robert Primo, this Canadian TikToker, was very disturbed by this. So it led him to call the police a little bit later and ask if it was legal. Turns out it's legal, folks, if it's done at a pride parade. Not any other time, though. You can't do this any other time. At least this allegedly happened. I do want to make this clear. This video is blowing up. So standard viral video disclaimers apply. I think it's real, right? It seems to be real. Should this be, a ruse? I'm falling for it, right? But I'm sure I'm going to be sure to issue a correction if it turns out that this was not, in fact, a Canadian police officer. Robert Primo, nothing uh, makes me think that he would lie like that and have somebody on the other end pretending to be a police officer. But Mr. Primo, he should be heard just as much as this Florida teacher, a school teacher. This is just loaded on TikTok. Like Florida school teachers, they're doing this trend. It's a TikTok trend where they're filming the empty shelves and they're whining about Ron DeSantis book banning, right? Ron DeSantis said, no, absolutely not. You can't have Flamer on the shelves for third graders to read. It's a pornographic book. But if these Florida school TikTokers, they can get out there and start filming the empty shelves and lying and saying that Ron DeSantis is banning books, then I think that Mr. Primo here in Canada should be heard as well. So let's take a listen to Mr. Primo, this TikToker. This is a conversation he allegedly had with a police officer in Canada. He calls him up after seeing what he saw at this pride parade that was actually sponsored by Bud Light. Of course it was. Let's take a listen. Here we go.
Ask a police officer a question.
Sure, one moment.
Thank you.
Thank you for calling.
Hi there. I was just looking to ask an officer a question, and then I got forwarded to you. Is there? I just want to make sure I'm not working outside of any laws or anything like that. If you want to be out in the street, you have to be fully clothed, and you can't be naked or anything like that, right?
Well, I mean, there are naked people running around in the street.
Okay, but is that against the law?
That would be some mental health issues.
Oh, okay. I agree with you on that one. I'm having a hard time. Yesterday, I seen a bunch of people naked in front of children and police officers, seeing men with their penis out in front of kids. And I'm just wondering if that's acceptable.
Was that part of the pride, you mean? Was that on the weekend?
Yeah, it was at the pride parade.
Yeah. So that's always the issue then each year.
What's the issue with that? Sorry.
Well, I mean, that happens every year.
Oh, so it's kind of like it's okay for when it's at the pride parade, but not in other situations, obviously.
Exactly. I would say so.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you very much for your time.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Bye now.
Folks. So Primo, he asks the man, he asks the cop if a guy is allowed to walk around outside naked, which led to an unintentionally hilarious response from the cop. There are naked people running around on the street. That's what this cop says. But that would be some sort of mental health issue, right? And then he goes, yeah, I would agree with you, man. Like people running around naked in the street is kind of a mental health issue, 100%. And then Primo got more specific. The guy got more specific and he said, look, I saw naked men prancing around while little kids watched. And the cop knew exactly what event he was talking about. It was the Pride Parade. And he says, quote, the cop, that's the issue every year. That happens every year. Then Primo, he goes, okay, so the Pride Parade, it's okay in that situation, but not other situations. And then the cop says, exactly. I would say so. You could hear the sound of defeat in this cop's voice. That's the beauty of all of this. He knows the words coming out of his mouth. He knows it sounds ridiculous. He also knows he's only got a few more years left until retirement. And this is what Canadians get for reelecting a walking pile of soy and hair goop like Justin Trudeau. Okay, that's what you get, Canada. You've elected Justin Trudeau. People on the rainbow spectrum can't claim to be marginalized when you've been granted extra rights that other people don't get. We saw that back in 2020, right? Cis-normative people, they had to shut down their businesses, stay locked in their homes, and keep their kids away from their friends, and only to be allowed to, like, you could only leave your house if you had 3 masks on in the name of science. In the name of science, you have to put 3 masks on, and otherwise you can't leave your house. But the L's, the G's, the B's, the T's, the Q's, right? They were the whole gang. They were allowed to party it up in the streets June 2020. 309-451-9299. You can text into the show. It's a Friday, 6:37 a.m. Do you have power? Text me, let me know if you lost your power, what kind of damage you've got. I also have been receiving a lot of pictures of damage, tree damage on our text line. You can send me pictures through the text line of your tree damage, but let me know what area you're in. I heard that Lincoln, Atlanta, then Clinton got some severe damage. We also saw Springfield, the actual downtown area of Springfield. There was this dumpster that crashed into a business and it left a gaping hole in the side of a building, which was incredible to see that picture. I'll see you guys on the other side of this break. Tom Davis, he's got your news. Good morning, folks. Thanks so much for tuning in to the live stream. Now, one thing I wanted to bring up here locally, if you're watching right now, please let me know if you're in the Unit 5 school system. That is the 15th largest school district here in the state of Illinois. And if you're in the Unit 5 school district, you need to know that they recently approved solar panels. So we know Olympia Middle School and High School, they had these solar panels and they costed a lot of money, folks. And what happened to these solar panels and other solar panels, what happens to these solar panels, the inverters go bad, they combust, they start a fire. That's what happened at Olympia right before school was let out. The kids were forced to learn remotely for a couple of weeks and they were out of school as the school was trying to repair the damages. There was a lot of smoke damage. They actually had water, and they had tried to water this fire, like the firefighters, right? They were trying to use water, but they had to use these special fire extinguishers. Then they had to have a solar panel electrician come out and diffuse the panel, the inverter, the solar panel inverter, because this type of fire just wasn't, you couldn't put it out without disconnecting it from the inverter. So this is a very dangerous thing. There was also a solar panel inverter that went out in central Illinois. It was a field, so it didn't affect children in a school, but these inverters are bad. The solar panels, right? They aren't safe. They don't produce as much electricity as you would think. And their shelf life is probably about 20 to 30 years, 24 years. And as years go on, these solar panels start to produce less and less electricity. That's just the facts, folks. And what's really disturbing is that we're looking at all of these different schools in central Illinois have decided to approve these solar panels being on the roofs of schools. And have we learned nothing from what happened at Olympia Middle School and High School? Did they do some research? Did they find out, hey, does this cost like does it benefit, like did we do a cost benefit risk analysis? Like have we gone in and done a deep dive on how these solar panels interact? Uh, like like have we done the research here? But Unit 5 just approved them. They cost so much money. So much money. It's ridiculous. You can go on blnnews.com. There is an article up there this morning. There's an update on the Olympia solar panel fire. Like I said, this isn't the only one. We just saw another one in central Illinois. I forget where it was. It was like in some sort of farming community. It was in the middle of a field, so it was okay. But they had to have yet another solar electrician come out there and try to diffuse. I mean, these things are like essentially bombs. You have to have a special person come out there and disconnect the inverter from the panel because that's the problem, the inverters. Um, so Olympia paid $3.9 million for these panels, and they still owe $2.68 million on the bond they floated. So this is a big amount of money, like a huge sum of money. I don't know how much Unit 5 is paying for their electric panel or their solar panels. But I do know that Unit 5, prior to this tax increase that they forced you to vote for, again, a second time after you said, no, I don't want a tax increase, and then they put it on the municipal election ballot. I do know that they were not in a good financial place. I don't know if they still are in a good financial place, right? I don't think that they're in a great financial place, but apparently Unit 5 has enough money to pay for solar panels that could combust. And here's the thing, folks. Olympia taxpayers, this Olympia parents, people who are in the Olympia school district, they're going to be paying to remedy and prevent future fires because of these solar panels. So there was damage done because of this fire. And now you have to not only pay for the solar panels, but you have to pay for all of the damage that has been done since one fire. And then you have to pay for all of the future fires. So they're trying to, make it to where these don't combust again. And Olympia wound up hiring this company. It's called True North to investigate and report on the damage, including air quality. The report is about 105 pages long. I don't know what it costed Olympia to hire these people on. So, like, there's all kinds of added costs just because this fire happened. Um, it's it's concerning that we have all kinds of central Illinois schools now approving these solar panels, despite there being a story about these solar panels catching on fire and risking the lives of students. Like, do they care? Do they care if your kids die in a fire? I mean, that's where I'm at with this. The air quality still kind of sucks today. It's a little bit better since we got that rain, much needed rain. I think we're going to get a little bit more rain, and then the rain is going to start to clear up here the 3rd and the 4th. And folks, just a programming note, Cities 92.9, The Morning Buzz, we're going to be running some best ofs. I'm going to be taking a much needed vacation, a couple of days off to get away from the news and to enjoy the birth of America, 1776, July 4th, Independence Day. Happy July 4th to you. I hope you guys shoot off a bunch of fireworks. I know here in Illinois, they are not supposed to be shot off, but hey, I don't know why, but we still do it anyway, right? A lot of people shoot off fireworks in the state of Illinois, and that's just the facts, folks. So your laws really mean nothing if you don't enforce them. So yeah, that's Illinois is like only one of 3 states that have banned fireworks. Leroy, the city of Leroy, they put out something, and I was kind of shocked that they did this. Now, I do think that because of the drought conditions, it looks like we're going to be getting rain pretty much all weekend leading up to the 3rd and 4th. And then the 3rd and 4th, it's supposed to be gorgeous, sunny 80s. I don't know, weather can change, right? We live in the Midwest. I'm not a weatherman, so chill out. But Leroy came out and they said that they weren't going to do fireworks because of the drought conditions and also because it's banned in the state of Illinois. I get the drought conditions, maybe not trying to. I know that there's other areas here, and if you want to know where fireworks are at this year, you can go to cities929.com. We've done the homework for you. I put this together. If you want to take the kids out to go see some fireworks, we have a list, and it's based off of your county, so you can find where your county's at: Woodford County, Logan County, Livingston County, and you can find where your county is at. And then there's all kinds of fireworks shows that you can go to. But I don't get it. Leroy, like, you're gonna listen to the state on this issue. Like, we're one of 3 states that have banned fireworks, and police don't they just don't enforce it. So it's like a stupid law. We've got so many stupid laws that need to get off the books, especially this one. Like, come on, let us celebrate the birthday of America, okay? 1776, July 4th, Independence Day. Come on. So if you want to see some fireworks and you don't know where to go to cities929.com. We've got a nice little layout for you. I am going to be taking July 3rd and 4th off. Very necessary for my mental health, folks. Right? I mean, doing the news every day, it takes a toll. I love doing it. This job is awesome. But like everything, we all need a little vacation. So before I took the break, I was telling you a little bit about the rainbow spectrum people and how they can't claim to be marginalized if they're granted extra rights that other people don't get. This guy, his name is Primo. He's a Canadian TikToker, and he called the police, and the police essentially said, "Yeah, well, gay people, they have like extra rights, dude." It's like, what? Like, so I can't run around naked any other day, but it's okay if it's in a gay pride parade. This is what you get, Canada, for re-electing a walking pile of soy and hair goop, Justin Trudeau. 309-451-9299. Did you know that today is National Social Media Day? I feel like that's every day. I spend way too much time on social media. I don't even want to tell you because it's embarrassing how much time on social media I spend, but my screen time is probably way over the average person's because I am always plugged into the news. And for many, today is the start of a long 4th of July holiday weekend. Hope that you guys have a great holiday. When it comes to hot dogs, so I'm sure you're going to be busting out the hot dogs for 4th of July, mustard, relish. They're the norm, right? Uh, and foodies say never ketchup. Never ketchup, at least as an adult, right? I don't do ketchup. I'm not a ketchup person. So apparently ketchup is really big down south. I've got some family that live down south, and I mean, I guess they put ketchup on everything. Me, I am a mustard person when it comes to my hot dog. I also really like those long spear pickles and tomatoes and pepperoncinis on my hot dog, kind of like a Chicago style dog. I actually don't know what's all on a Chicago style dog. I've lived in Illinois my entire life, and I have no idea what would all be on a Chicago dog. I like the pepperoncinis, the tomatoes, and the long spear pickles for a hot dog. But what's the best topping for a hot dog? Be a part of the show. Text in at 309-451-9299, or you can see me live in the studio, comment. And what should you never put on a hot dog? What is something you would never put on a hot dog? Mayo. There, I said it. Mayo should be for hamburgers, okay? Not hot dogs. Speaking of hot dogs, July 4th is just a beacon for hot. I mean, it is just the day that a lot of America just eats hot dogs. They're fast, easy. You can cook them up on the grill. 150 million. That's what we're expected to be eating this year. 150 million hot dogs. A lot of these hot dogs are going to be sucked down at the New York Coney Island annual Nathan's hot dog eating contest. So this is something they do every year. Last year, I talked about Joey Chestnut. He is going to try to win for the 16th time in his career. So last year, he downed 63 hot dogs in 10 minutes. That's insanity. But that's not even his record, folks. So his record was 76 in 10 minutes in 2021. On the female side of it, this is like a sport, I guess, because on the female side of it, she slammed down 40 hot dogs last year to take the win. Her name is Mickey Sudo, and she has been the winner for 9 consecutive titles. So for 9 straight years, she has been the winner of this hot dog eating contest on the women's side of things. The competition airs on ESPN2. So that's really kind of funny. This is a straight up sporting event. This Nathan's hot dog eating contest. I guess it happens in New York every year. Really interesting. I think it's kind of unfair that these people keep winning. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. I'd imagine it's pretty hard to find somebody to volunteer to be in this sport. And maybe these people are like the only people who want to do this sort of thing. I would never enter into an eating competition. There's no way. 309-451-9299. I'll be back. Good morning, Mad Chatter. Thanks so much for texting in. In New York, it looks like we just had a fireworks show for a month. Yeah, so the smoke from the Canadian wildfires. Tell me this. I Riddle me this. Why in the world does the smoke smell like plastic and sulfur? And if it's supposed to be from wildfires, right? There's definitely something they're not telling us. I don't know. I don't know. I'd have to go to Canada. I'd have to research and look at these fires. Now, I have seen video footage of wildfires happening in Canada. However, I don't know how in the world this weather pattern, right? I mean, it's coming to Illinois, and when you look at the wind pattern, it doesn't make sense because it goes down and then it goes around and then it goes up, and like somehow magically the smoke has decided to come to places like Illinois. New York, it makes a little bit more sense that the firework or like the um, fire smoke would be there because it's further up north and the wind pattern kind of suggests that it would be there. I don't know. I just find it odd that it all smells like plastic and sulfur and they're saying that it's forest fires. And I'm like, wait a second. So why does it smell like plastic? Why does it smell like sulfur? And why can I not breathe? Right? So I've been around forest fires, right? We do controlled burns. You get that if you're in central Illinois. You would get that the controlled burns every year. And there's a time here in Illinois where we do controlled burns to keep the soil nice. We're known for our soil. So Mad Chatter, if you're from New York, here in Illinois, we do the controlled burns, and that smoke smells very different because we're lighting up forests, we're lighting up fields, and that has a very different smell than that of what is in the air currently right now. It's disgusting. It's choking me. It burns my throat. There's a difference between a forest fire smoke and a chemical smoke. Okay. And I don't know. It's all very fishy to me. I'm not paid enough, frankly, to find this out. I'm waiting to see if news drops. There hasn't been a whole lot. There's been theories out there um, about there being a chemical being burned along with the forest fires. So they're dropping these chemical pads into the forest fires to kind of cover this up. I don't know. The government is trying to tell me that it is a forest fire, and I just don't believe that because it's not reflective of reality. Um, and the weather pattern, it doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense to me. And it's good to question. I think it's good to question. The governor says to stay inside. Yeah. So, um, Buffalo, I have no experience with this. So, yeah, you're from New York. Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I've heard that it's really bad in it's really bad here in Illinois. Chicago is particularly bad. So that's one thing too. Typically in and we know this from tornado activity. Tornadoes tend to avoid cities, big cities, because there's a higher heat index, I guess, over cities. There's more heat in cities, so that tends to deter like weather patterns from affecting cities. So that's why you hear about tornadoes ripping through rural areas more so. With this smoke, I've noticed that places like Chicago, places like New York City, there is more of it. So in rural areas, it's almost like it's less than that of the. So there's heat, and naturally, right, heat should deter some sort of um, smog and stuff like that. But I don't know. I have no idea what's going on. I'm not a meteorologist. I don't know what's happening. I just question it because it doesn't smell like a forest fire. Um, and the government here, it just doesn't. And like we live in 2023. This is not like 1800s. We don't live in the Stone Ages. what do you mean you can't get this under control? This is affecting people in real ways, and you can't get this under control. The fires, what's happening? Why can't you get the fires under control? Are you even trying? Now, people have told me that that this happens in the South a lot of times. There will be wildfires that start in the mountains, and they don't touch it because there's nobody who lives there. So why touch it? Uh, but like I said, it doesn't make sense. The suspect or sus, I like it, sus jet stream. Yeah, the jet stream. It doesn't make sense, and the smell doesn't smell like a forest fire. So I think we're right to be questioning what's going on. I'm gonna be back here. Hold on. 309-451-9299. We've got the mad chatter in the chat here on YouTube, on Facebook. I believe he's from New York, and he's talking about how New York looks like it has had a fireworks show for a month. And of course, he's talking about the Canadian wildfires and the smoke, the smog that is plaguing that area. New York has got it really bad. We're kind of almost out of this, folks. In Illinois, I've heard that in a couple of days they're expecting this to go away. However, I am questioning this, and there's nothing wrong with being curious, because when you smell this smoke, and we've done controlled burns. I used to live in a rural area where there was a controlled burn, a specific season where you did controlled burns to try to keep the soil nice. You get that as a Midwesterner, and you know the difference between the smell of a forest smoke and the smell of a chemicals like smell. What's in the air right now smells very chemically, very plasticky, sulfur type scent to it, and it doesn't smell like a natural forest fire to me. And it piques my curiosity. Then I looked at the jet streams, and it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense how that smoke is getting here to the state of Illinois. You look at the wind patterns. Now, meteorologists have explained it. They say, cold front, warm front, blah, blah, blah. When you look at this thing, when you look at the jet stream, it literally looks like somebody took a pencil and they did a bunch of squiggly lines from Canada, and somehow it managed to get here to Illinois. So I've got questions. There's nothing wrong with questioning it. Good morning, folks. When we come back, I will be discussing not only the Supreme Court decision here of the affirmative action. They're ruling on the right side of history here. The court has finally corrected another awful 70s mistake, and they ruled that racially discriminatory, really, college admissions, that's unconstitutional. And one thing that I want to point out about this decision, it holds that Harvard and UNC, this is North Carolina, University of North Carolina, their admissions programs violate the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. So this isn't to say that affirmative action is banned everywhere, right? But when the left gets control of our education, you begin to see this sort of thing play out. Standards, they drop. Test scores, they plummet. Students, they begin to hurt. Uh, the left wants to abolish things like AP courses. They want to abolish things like ACTs, SATs, anything that could measure some sort of achievement, some sort of excellence, they want to get rid of. And the left controlled teachers' unions, which kept schools closed. You get this. Being in the state of Illinois, the teachers' union literally has all of the ruling power. I would say even more so than the tyrant Governor J.B. Pritzker. The Chicago Teacher Union is so powerful. They've got JB under their thumb. Okay, so they closed everything up during COVID, leading to a historic collapse of test scores. The kids are not performing well. They can't even read at grade level. Like the numbers are staggering. And you're like, oh, is it just Chicago kids? No, it's Unit 5, it's Bloomington, it it's all of these school districts. They are performing at historic lows. The left pushes the sexually explicit content and radical gender ideology into our schools, and that clouds their thinking. Right? That's what's going on, and they don't punish misbehaving kids. We saw that here recently with the One school, I think it's a Unit 5 school. The parents were very upset. There was a fourth grader who was terrorizing some first graders on the playground. Now, I understand. I've been told that this school uh, has a specific division. There is a specific wing within the school where these kids have mental issues, where they have learning disabilities, things like that. I get that, but at the same time, we have teachers who refuse to do their job and to punish misbehaving students. And what that essentially does, it turns entire classrooms, it turns entire schools really into um, little more than dangerous zoos. Like that's where we're at, and we know that because of the District 87 brawls that we saw here in Bloomington. Now, I've got a text here. They said, "Hey, check this out." So this is interesting. This is a news released about Indiana refinery. Unplanned odor release occurred at Indiana refinery Sunday afternoon, triggering hundreds of 911 calls. So this might be explaining why we have this chemical smell in the air. Now, I don't know if this refinery um, is close to Illinois. I mean, it's in Indiana, so I don't know if this is what we're smelling here in Illinois. It wouldn't explain what's going on in New York, right? Indiana, New York, they're far enough apart to where this doesn't make sense, but why New Yorkers would be smelling the chemicals. So a disruption at BP's refinery, a Whiting, that's what it's called in Indiana, Northwest Indiana, resulted in unplanned flaring of gases, causing an unknown odor that has triggered hundreds of concerned residents making 911 calls. A Porter County Emergency Management Agency reported the incident, assuring that these BP crews were working to resolve the situation and that there was no immediate danger. So this is interesting. This happened approximately at 1 p.m. on Sunday. So this is already a week gone by. And it was confirmed by sources familiar with the situation. Later in the evening, local fire officials took to social media to provide updates to concerned citizens, with most updates simply stating that the natural gas leak has not yet been resolved. So the Indiana Department of Environmental Management has notified and will conduct evaluations, blah, blah, blah. So Michigan City Fire Department, that's interesting, received reports of gas leaks. So Michigan is also involved in this. So this is kind of interesting. I don't know if this is the reason why, and perhaps, what unplanned odor release, if there was a natural gas leak, who caused this leak? Was it an accident? Um, should people be fired for this sort of thing, right? I'm smelling small sulfur. I'm smelling all kinds of chemicals in the air. That's what doesn't make sense about this whole thing. I was asking you guys what you liked on your hot dogs. I like the pickles. I like the pepperoncinis. I like the mustard. I don't eat hot dogs, but I remember my dad liked to put sauerkraut on his hot dogs. It's really interesting. Sauerkraut's supposed to be very good for you. Um, we're gonna be back. Let's talk about this one story I've got. The body cam footage of the police officer in Allen, Texas, shows this cop's true heroism. I've got that story. Plus, guess who was in Ukraine? We have what's her name? Greta Thunberg in Ukraine talking with Zelensky today. So I'll be back. Hold on. Coming up, we're going to unpack this body cam footage from the Allen shooting. It was finally released, and we see the heroic unnamed police officer go from reminding a kid about the importance of wearing a seatbelt to grabbing his gun and running towards an active shooter up at shooting up this mall in Allen, Texas. Let's get to that here coming up in just a little bit. Plus, Greta Thunberg, guess where she's at? She's in Ukraine. She's in Ukraine talking to Zelensky about the ecocide that is happening because of the war. Yeah, war is terrible for the environment. So she's kind of half right here, folks. But I have a suggestion for Greta Thunberg when she's giving these talks to the Ukraine president who wears cargo shorts, President Zelensky. I have a suggestion for her. You guys are going to gotta stick around to find out what I'm going to suggest to our little friend here, Greta Thunberg, when she's talking to these people in Ukraine about the ecocide that's going on because of war. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, wow, I'm shocked that he did this, folks, and I'm glad that he did this. Ron DeSantis, look, there is no way you are going to be the nominee. Okay. So the polling does not suggest it. And before you say, cat the polls, right? Why? How could you say that the polls don't, or you believe in the polls? Look, you believe in the polls too. Okay. If I were to sit here and say that Mike Pence has a shot at the nomination, you would look at me with your eyebrows raised. Yes, you believe in the polls just as much as I do. Now, I'm not going to say when it's close, people will start to, but this isn't even close. Ron DeSantis is not even close, not even a contender. But Ron DeSantis, he says something here, and I was waiting for him to say this. If he were to be elected, he says that he would step up and eliminate 4 federal agencies. That's a huge story. So he was asked, "Hey, are you in favor of eliminating any kind of agencies?" And he responds, and his response is beautiful. So I'm going to talk about that here coming up in just a little bit. Now, before we took the break, I was talking a little bit about the chemical smell. Now, if you live in Illinois, you get it. There is a chemical smell in the air. There has been smokes like for the past week, right? And you might think that your contacts are like folded up in your eye, or it's your eyes and you're like rubbing your eyes and you're like, nope, it's still blurry. Yes, there's been smoke in the air. We think, at least people are thinking, that this is going to be gone in a couple of days. I sure hope so. Now, I was talking about how this doesn't smell like a normal forest fire. There's a chemical in the air. It smells very sulfur-ish. And somebody sent me this. Now, I have no idea if this is in correlation. There is nothing in the mainstream news, right, that suggests that this is a possibility. But it makes sense. It's in Indiana, Whiting, Indiana. Now, I have no idea where that is in relation to Bloomington Normal Central, Illinois. But get this, there was a disruption at BP's Whiting refinery. It's in northwest Iowa, and it resulted in the unplanned flaring of gases, causing an unknown odor that triggered hundreds of concerned residents to make 911 calls. So there was a refinery, and apparently there was a gas leak. Now, the Porter County Emergency Management Agency reported the incident, and they are assuring the community that the BP crews, they are working on it. The people at the refinery, they're working on it to resolve the situation, and they said that there was no immediate danger. Now, the incident was reported on Sunday at about 1 p.m. So this is even further, like, this is even crazier because it's like, this is lasting this long if smell is coming from Indiana. So later in the evening, local fire officials took to social media and provided updates to concerned citizens, with most updates simply stating that there was a natural gas leak and it has not yet been resolved. So the Indiana Department of Environmental Management was then notified, and then they conducted evaluations. Now, there's been also reports Michigan City Fire Department received reports of a gas leak, but the investigation revealed that the odor was not related to natural gas. So I don't know. There's investigations happening. This could be why we're smelling some sulfur in the air. And perhaps it's just a coincidence, a curious coincidence that these refineries are leaking natural gas, and that's the smell that we're seeing or smelling. And then there's also the Canadian wildfires. I've got questions. I know you've got questions. I have no idea what's going on. The jet stream pattern doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It literally looks, when I was watching this meteorologist try to explain it, He was drawing and he drew the jet stream pattern from Canada to the Midwest, and it just looks like a big old squiggly line. And I'm like, what, does wind move that way? Or isn't there patterns to this? I don't know. It's all chaos, but stay safe. I made the mistake and I went for a run in this, and I would not recommend you do that. My throat still is burning. I went for a run outside in this, and it was just not a good decision. So just stay safe out there. I don't know. I just I want it to be gone. I want it to be gone so bad. So let's get to this body cam footage. Allen Police Department. This is incredible, and I wish that we had this guy's name. We don't have it yet. This was released, and we can see this heroic unnamed police officer going from reminding this kid about the importance of wearing a seatbelt to grabbing his gun, and he runs towards the gunfire at this Allen Mall where this active shooter was shooting up people. The name of the police officer has not yet been revealed. I hope when it is revealed that people flood him with a bunch of thank yous. He didn't even wait for backup, folks. He went right in and he neutralized the threat. He is truly a hero. Now, if you are watching, this is very graphic. I am on the live stream. If you guys want to see the body cam footage, the audio here just is damning in itself. It just shows you the heroism of this guy. Let's take a listen. Here we go.
Hey, make sure y'all be good, okay? And make sure you wear your seatbelts when mommy's driving, okay? You understand? Okay? Okay? All right. All right, you be good.
Escúchate. And say always the
Seatbelt?
wow.
145. I think we got shots fired at the outlet mall.
Shots fired at the outlet.
I got people running.
Precinct 137.
Get going! Get going! Get moving!
420 on the round.
So, yeah, that is just, it's just so chilling. He's just sitting there with a mother and her two children, reminding the children, hey, it's so important to wear your seatbelt. And then all of a sudden you hear the shots. And then the mom, you can see her movements. Like she grabs her two children by the hand. She starts ducking, and she starts trying to grab her children, and she starts to try to barricade herself between these cars. And this guy just scrambles for this gun out of his car, and he just doesn't even hesitate. He gets on the radio as he's running, and he starts calling for backup, and he runs in and he neutralizes the threat. Wow. He goes, I'm on foot. I need everybody. I got a real mass shooter. I'm moving as fast as I can. The officer spotted the shooter, and half a dozen or so seconds. I mean, he goes, I got him down. I got him down after like it took seconds. I mean, like I could probably count on my hand how many seconds it took for him to get to that mall. I mean, now he wasn't far. It seems like he was in this outlet mall, and like there was a parking lot. It wasn't like so far, but it's hard. Like imagine running. So, the Walmart off of Veterans, imagine running from one side of the parking lot to the other side of the parking lot. Like that's the run that this guy did. The Allen Police Department, they released a statement about the officer, and they said this video shows how quickly a routine interaction with the public turned into a life and death situation. The officer recognized the danger, ran toward the gunfire, and neutralized the threat. And for his actions, the Allen community is forever grateful. With a gun, he took down the person who murdered 8 people, 3 children, and injured 10 more when he shot up an outdoor mall in Allen, Texas. Had it not been for the officer's bravery, the event would have been more tragic. 309-451-9299. You can always text in, be a part of the show. Do want to shift gears. Let's talk about Ron DeSantis, because this clip is awesome. And I didn't think, I'll be the first one to admit it, I didn't think that Ron DeSantis would come out in this way and say this about these agencies. What needs to happen, or all of these agencies need to be dissolved, including the FBI. Now, I am disappointed with Ron DeSantis. He didn't say the FBI. Now, he talks about eliminating 4 agencies here. Let's take a listen to Ron DeSantis talking about this on Fox News. He was on Fox News and he got the question, hey, are you in favor of eliminating any kind of agencies? I think Donald Trump will get in there and day one just eliminate all of them, right? Because he's out for blood. He is a revenge Trump, right? Revenge Trump needs to get in there and dissolve all of these agencies who have, it's so funny. We have the executive branch, we have the judicial branch, and we have the legislative branch. And we know this, right? We went through basic civics courses, basic government courses. So, what is this fourth branch of government? It's these agencies, these bureaucracies who have gotten way too much power. Here's Ron DeSantis. Here we
Are
go.
you in favor of eliminating any agencies? I know conservatives in the past have talked about closing the Department of Education. Would you do that?
So we would do education, we would do commerce, we do energy, and we would do IRS. And so if Congress will work with me on doing that, we'll be able to reduce the size and scope of government. But what I'm also going to do, Martha, is be prepared if Congress won't go that far. I'm going to use those agencies to push back against woke ideology and against the leftism that we see creeping into all institutions of American life. So, for example, with Department of Education, we reverse all the transgender sports stuff. Women's sports should be protected. We reverse policies trying to inject the curriculum into our schools. That will all be gone. We will make sure we have an accreditation system for higher ed, which is not trying to foment more things like DEI and CRT. So we'll be prepared to do both. Either way, it'll be a win for conservatives.
All right. Are you in favor of eliminating?
He went pretty far there, folks. I didn't think Ron DeSantis would come out that strongly against these agencies. That was my big concern with Ron DeSantis is, hey, is he going to go in and pull a revenge Trump and, eliminate these FBI, these agencies that have been weaponized against the American people? There he is on tape saying that he would. So one thing that I hope he does is actually eliminate the FBI. That's a big one, and the DOJ. This fourth branch of government is the biggest threat to the American people than anything else. Another big threat to the American people, one that I think is actually bigger than anything. There is a record 25% of American 40-year-olds that have never been married. The bedrock of a successful society, folks, is families with children. That having children is successful. Okay, that's what makes successful societies. I think that this is a huge crisis that needs to be addressed, but of course, they aren't going to address it. They're going to deal with Ukraine. They're going to send more money to Ukraine. I think that this is a bigger crisis. But of course, our elites, they're going to ignore this. The social progressives, of course, will celebrate it as freedom, the success in 40-year-olds never being married and never having children. A record 25% of American 40-year-olds have never been married. Good morning. Thanks so much for tuning in. A couple of minutes, we're going to be talking about Greta Thunberg. I'm going to completely destroy her. She's a 20-year-old activist, and she's partially correct here. She is talking about how flooding is being used as a weapon of war and that this is bad for the environment and there's environmental destruction going on. And she says ecocide is a form of warfare. Yes, it always has been. Okay, this is nothing new. I'm going to go through the history here. There's a lot of history about the ecocide, the ecosystem being used against people in war. We have a long history of hydraulic warfare. This is nothing new. The dam blowing up, of course, this is what she's talking about. It's a response to the blast in Kokova, the Kokova Dam. It occurred on June 6th of this year, causing flooding in Russian occupied areas. People say that Russia did it. People say that Ukraine did it. My personal belief is that Ukraine did it, much like the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. And by Ukraine, de facto, I think the United States, right? The CIA. We've been working with Ukraine on a lot of these. This is a proxy war, right? It's the United States versus Russia at this point. But Ukraine said because of that dam exploding in Kokova, They lost $1.3 billion. They have $1.3 billion in damages. Zelensky called this an environmental bomb of mass destruction. So yes, war has effects on the environment. I don't. That's a pretty obvious point. Okay, Greta. So Greta goes to Ukraine. She meets with Zelensky, and she says that war is bad for the environment. No, duh. Okay, but guess what? These Democrats are the ones fueling the war. They're funding the war, and Greta, maybe you should add that a line to your speeches here. Hey, we need to have some sort of peace agreements to avoid this kind of destruction on the environment. The Ukrainian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, they report that there's 174,000 square kilometers of land that contain mines and unexploded bombs, making Ukraine the country with the most landmines in the world. That's ahead of Syria and Afghanistan. This is huge. Yes, this is having an effect on the environment. Explosions aren't great for the environment. In fact, I would say that they're awful for the environment. So let's make peace. But you want to know who is pushing for this war and continuing this war because it's a racket and people are making money. You want to know who keeps pushing for this war? Democrats. The people you claim, Greta, are so great and are the ones who are leading the fight against climate change and the fight for the environment, right? So you are a hypocrite. You should be fighting for peace. And the people who are fighting for peace are typically Republicans, not all Republicans, right? I'm talking about the Freedom Caucuses. I'm talking about the conservative, anti war Republicans, the Republicans who don't go by Republican in just name, right? The true conservative Republicans are anti war and they are for peace. The Democrats are not. If you're watching right now, I see you watching. Please smash that like button. It really helps me out. Smash the like button, subscribe to the channel. That'll help me out. That'll ensure that we continue to push out great content. Now, one thing that I wanted to also get to this morning was the self-proclaimed proud Democrat. Her name here is, oh gosh, what's her name? Erica Marsh. So she's a blue check on Twitter, right? She's one of these Democrat acolytes. She's a nobody, really, but she says that she's a Democrat and she tweets something out that's completely just overtly racist. And then she tries to backpedal and it doesn't work. And it's absolutely hilarious. So all of these Democrats are showing their true colors when it comes to the Supreme Court of the United States decision to uh, eradicate affirmative action into universities. Now, this sets precedent. I hope that more colleges hop on this bandwagon and they say, hey, this is actually a violation to the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. Maybe we shouldn't have affirmative action. But meanwhile, we do have Joey Biden out there trying to say that, oh, well, uh, you guys can just go against the Supreme Court decision. Yeah, he literally said that. He's encouraging people to go against the Supreme Court. Yeah, he is the commander in chief right now, more like divider in chief. I mean, thank God Greta Thunberg is in Ukraine to shame us all about ecocide. Actually, I'm gonna say it. Greta Thunberg is actually getting half of this right. Okay, folks. She's in Ukraine. She's talking about ecocide and how the Ukraine-Russia conflict is bad for the environment. No, duh. I just don't understand. Like, did I really need Greta Thunberg to come out and tell me that war is bad on the environment? Duh, right? So she's shaming us all about the eco side. She's half right here, folks. So I'm going to get to that. Plus, a self proclaimed proud Democrat. She goes by the name Erica Marsh. She's one of these blue check Twitter people, but she has this hilarious, racist, really, tweet. And she tries to backpedal it, and it just doesn't work. And it just shows you how racist Democrats really are. And their racism is truly coming out now because the Supreme Court of the United States ruled against affirmative action in this ruling. And I mean, this is a good thing. Finally, the court has corrected another awful 70s mistake, and they ruled that racially discriminatory college admissions are unconstitutional. So the Supreme Court, they held that Harvard and UNC, University of North Carolina, admissions programs actually violate the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. The left, once they get control of education, you start to see it. Standards drop, test scores plummet, the students hurt. The left has wanted to abolish things like the ACT, the SAT scores from being used in college admissions because of racism. They're trying to push to abolish AP classes, honors classes because of racism. These left controlled teachers' unions, which kept schools closed during the COVID-19 pandemic, and they led to a historic collapse in test scores. Kids can't read. Okay. At this point, kids can't read at grade level. And that's not just in Chicago. That's here in your community, Unit 5, District 87. The left pushes this dangerous sexually explicit content, then radical gender ideology into our schools. And it perverts them and it consumes their minds. The left won't let teachers punish misbehaving students. This is a big deal. This turns entire classrooms, entire schools into little more than dangerous zoos. We saw this during the District 87 brawls where a school resource officer was hospitalized. So let's get to Greta Thunberg here, and then we're going to take a break, visit with Scott Robbins for Scott's Takes. Greta Thunberg, she goes to Ukraine and she points out the obvious. War is actually bad for the environment. No, duh. Right? It's just like, Greta, I don't think you needed to tell us that, but she's the Swedish climate change activist, and she met with Ukraine President Vladimir Zelensky at the Kiev capital. The gathering was an inaugural meeting for a working environmental group of prominent European figures to assess the damage the war has brought to the region over the last 16 months. So this is all kind of about this blast that happened on the dam. It's the Kokova Dam. People say that it was Russia. People say that it was Ukraine. I think it was Ukraine with the help of the United States, because it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. There was a massive flooding in these Russian occupied areas. And yeah, I don't know what exactly happened, right? I'm not a Russian Ukraine expert. I don't know what's going on, but Ukraine said that it costed them $1.3 billion in damages. Ukraine is investigating the incident as, quote, a war crime or potential criminal ecological destruction. So, in wake of the dam breach, Zelensky called it an environmental bomb of mass destruction. This is nothing new, okay? So we have Greta Thunberg. This is what she says during this meeting with Zelensky. She says, ecocide, environmental destruction, is a form of warfare. Yeah, like it always has been. As Ukrainians by this point know all too well, and so does Russia. And that's why they are deliberately targeting the environment and people's livelihoods and homes, and therefore also destroying lives, because this is, after all a matter of all people. So she's 20 years old. She's pointing out the obvious, right? Like, yes, people use the ecosystem as a weapon of war. This is a tactic that's not new. It's called hydraulic warfare. Stalin's Soviet secret police deployed the tactic in 1941. They blew up a dam to slow the Nazi advance in Zaporizhia, Ukraine. So the tactic was also used in World War II in Europe and in China. This has been used. Okay, hydraulic warfare has been used. They've used the ecosystem, the environment, against their enemies. So Greta Thunberg, and all these they want to point this out, that explosives are bad for the environment as well. Duh, right? They let off. It's not natural, right? These are dangerous gases that a lot of these explosives let off. Actually, this is interesting. 174 square kilometers of land in Ukraine are contaminated by mines and unexploded bombs, making Ukraine the country with the most landmines in the world. That's ahead of Syria and Afghanistan. So yes, the war is bad on the environment. Okay. Here's what Greta is missing. The people who claim they're all for the environment are the same people who were fueling the war because they are lining their pockets. War is a racket, and they keep pushing for this war because they're making money off of it. Okay, so Greta, here's a bit of advice. Maybe you should add this line to your speech. As war goes, until there is peace agreements, there will be destruction to the planet. There's going to be destruction of all kinds because that's war. Maybe you should be advocating for peace. But notice how Greta Thunberg doesn't advocate for peace. She just says, hey, stop with the ecosystem, stop using the ecosystem, stop doing hydraulic warfare. Sorry, honey, but that's how wars are fought. There needs to be peace, and Democrats should be advocating for it. The people who screech, these green weenies who screech about the environment, should also be advocating for peace, but they're not, because that would be the solution to the environment, right? The environment being impacted. Idiot, just an idiot, Greta Thunberg is. 309-451-9299. I've got to take a quick break. We'll be back with Scott Robbins for Scott's Takes. It's a Friday, 7:32 a.m.
Look too good to me.
What's going on with Joe? I'm honestly concerned he has no situational awareness. I can't stop watching this clip.
Did you? I know. I exactly.
Scott Robbins
mean,
right over there. This is the morning. Buzz.
Right. I mean, David Van Camp sent me this last night. I hadn't seen it. And
I'm sorry, I'm watching it again.
No, I know. Joe Biden's on MSNBC with the awful, dreadful Nicole Wallace, right? So he's on with her doing a softball interview like they always do on MSNBC. And the interview ends and they're getting ready to go to break, but they're not there yet. Joe just inexplicably gets up off the seat and walks off the set. She's still talking.
I know, it's like it's so awkward because
incredible.
like the way he pulls himself up out of the chair, it's
Yeah.
like watching a snake try to slither his way out of the chair, you know, like there's no spine.
But then he's back to that shuffle thing across, and you can see him, you know,
and
one of the
the
white
ones
shots.
that didn't vote for your bills, but run on them.
That's right.
Mr. President, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's great to have you.
Thank you.
Because he was asked.
Don't go anywhere. It's a very exciting day around here. We'll have reaction and analysis to everything we just heard. Well, and the ones that didn't vote for your bills, but
yelling and can I just say this because I'm just going to apply the same rules of the left that they do all the time by what you say is violence, verbal violence. They do this stuff all the time. If you say things like that, you're inciting violence against, give me a victim, whatever they are, whatever victimhood they're under there. So Biden yesterday, basically, really came out and said it that the Supreme Court is illegitimate. That's, he said the Supreme Court is illegitimate. It's not a normal court. Well, isn't that putting a target on the backs of the Supreme Court members? Isn't that inciting some crazy person to do something drastic? Again, if you apply the same rules, aren't you inciting violence with your words, Joe? Aren't you telling people this is illegitimate? This shouldn't stand. And then the nut who hears it goes off and does something stupid. Isn't that what we've been taught? I'm just asking the question. I'm asking the question because that's the rules that are applied. But anyway, he's on MSNBC and he's rambling on about whatever. And this clip is Nicole Wallace. And you'll notice he doesn't know the difference between the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, but we'll let that pass. He's only the president. Here we go.
some of your former Senate colleagues on the Judiciary Committee would go as far as to say that it's anti-democratic. Do you agree with that?
Well, you know, if I say it's anti-democratic, then it gets
in a lot of trouble.
No, but it is. Its value system is different, and its respect for institutions is different, and in that sense, it is not as embracing of all what I think the Constitution says. We hold these truths to be self. All men and women are created equal, endowed by their Creator. It's a uniqueness of America. We never fully lived up to it. We never walked away from it, and this court seems to say that no, that's not always the case. The idea there's no right of privacy in the Constitution, giving states power that we fought a war over in 1960.
What?
You know, I just think it's this is not your father's Republican Party.
Oh.
Okay, that was a mess. The Declaration of Independence and Constitution. The President of the United States just screwed it up. Doesn't know the difference, obviously. And then to go on babbling about some war in 1960. That's why we fought a war in 1960. That was random. I don't know where that came from.
He said 1960? I thought it was 1860. I didn't even know what he was saying there. I was like, what war are you talking about?
No, he said 1960.
Oh, okay, 1960.
So, I mean, you can go back on that clip and listen to it again, but I'm pretty damn sure it was 1960, he said. Which, by the way, I know. Who knows? I don't know. I don't know what any of that meant. And this is a guy, seriously, who shuffles off the stage at the end, doesn't know, can't sit there until they go to break and then get up and leave. That's what people do when they're on TV doing interviews. You know, you don't see somebody on the Tonight Show that, okay, well, hey, thanks for coming, Tom Cruise. And then Tom just gets up and walks off the stage before they go to break. It doesn't happen. People don't do that. People of sound mind don't do that.
No.
But in Joe's world, that was perfectly acceptable. That's what you did.
No
So he shuffles
awareness.
off the stage. I mean, it's really that's crazy. Yeah, no situational awareness is right.
And what's
So
up with this new word? Have you heard this new catch-all term? It's called adversity. So
adversity?
Yeah, there's a clip here of Joe Biden, and he's talking about divider in chief, right? He moves as fast as he can in the years to get behind the mic, right? And he blasts the Supreme Court of the United States. He literally just puts them on blast. And
yeah, he does.
There's this clip here, and he says there's this new word out there, Scott. I think that they're going to start using this as like the catch-all term for racism,
I'm ready for
like diversity.
I'm ready.
So here we go.
The student grew up and went to high school. It means understanding the particular hardships that each individual student has faced in life, including racial discrimination that individuals have faced in their own lives. The court says, quote, nothing in this opinion should be construed as prohibiting universities from considering an application's discussion of how race has affected his or her life, but be it through discrimination or inspiration or otherwise, end of quote. Because the truth is, we all know it, discrimination still exists in America. Discrimination still exists in America. Discrimination still exists in America. Today's
I don't know.
Okay.
Adversity, discrimination. I don't know. There's all kinds of different terms that they're throwing out there to describe racism. I don't know.
You know, I mean, again, there's going to be several workarounds on this ruling. I mean, this thing's it's far from over. I mean, there's several different workarounds they can use. But essentially what it says, and the majority of the people in this country agree with it, believe it or not, I just saw new polling data today. But what it says is you cannot use a picture of someone based on their race, white, black, Asian, whatever. You can't do that in terms of selection. It can be part of the criteria, but it can't be the entire criteria. A weighted system doesn't exist. This is the best and the brightest. That's what this country's always stood for, the best and the brightest. And if you excel and succeed in those areas, then you should, in fact, be rewarded for it. And that means higher education. It doesn't mean you have to all of a sudden lower standards in order to meet a quota. That's all it says. That's all it says. So, at any rate, let the fighting begin. Let the admissions people lose their minds, which they already are. Hunter Biden's child support got lowered. Did you see that?
Yeah. Is it like $5,000 a month?
Yeah,
now?
instead of $20,000, it's $5,000. That was quite a hit. $5,000. She, by the way, the mother of the child, his child, dropped asking for the Biden name of the child. So apparently that's not going to be a Biden, which I think is probably good for the kid. I think she thought it was good for the kid to have the Biden name. I'm not so sure.
I'm not so sure.
Oh, I'm not. And she also, apparently the child gets to choose artwork every year, Hunter Biden's artwork, and they can sell it.
What?
Yeah.
Okay, so like.
Well, so anyway, so
garbage.
the mom and the child get to pick a piece of art from the Hunter Biden gallery, right? We all knew about that one. And in turn, they can do whatever they want to with it. They can keep it or they can sell it, which of course they'll sell it. But I'm wondering, the reason people pay this much money for this garbage is because it's Hunter Biden. His dad's Joe Biden. They don't do it because they think it's good.
Yeah. No.
So I don't know how this is going to benefit that child and that mother at all, but that was part of the settlement. So it's $5,000 a month, down from $20,000 a month, which he wasn't paying anyway. And this is where it sits today. Go figure.
And I'm pretty sure that the art is a front for something else. There's no way.
Well, it's again, it's influence peddling. People buying, $40,000 for some painting by this knucklehead. That's crazy. Pepsi flavored ketchup is on your hot dog for Independence Day.
Ugh.
Detroit Tigers are game for it, by the way. Yeah, this is a baseball story, but it's still kind of cool. They're going to Pepsi's test marketing right now a Pepsi flavored ketchup that you can put on the dog. So they crafted their own condiment in partnership with a unit of the Culinary Institute of America. They call it Colachup.
Oh.
I don't know
Good
what's
job.
in it, by the way. Like kind of like hot dogs. I don't know what's in it. I know snouts and knuckles and things like that are in it, but I really don't know what's in a hot dog.
Well, how do you like your hot dog, Scott?
Ketchup, mustard. I don't like relish. I don't like a lot of garbage on it.
Okay.
Other people do. I mean, I'm sure you do. You probably throw relish all over it.
Yeah. Well, I like those pepperoncinis, tomatoes.
Yeah. Did you put
pickles.
onions on it too?
I do like onions on it.
Yeah.
I try to avoid onions, because of the bad breath.
Yeah, well, that's important when you're going to be close talking at an event anyway while eating.
Party.
But when was the last time you had a hot dog, by the way?
No, I don't know. I probably when I was a kid.
I was going to say, Kat's coming over. I'm not making hot dogs because I don't think she wants hot dogs.
Yeah, no. I'm a hamburger person. I think that they're superior.
I like hamburger. Well, yeah. I mean, if I'm going to go to a cookout, I prefer a hamburger over a hot dog. Yeah. But when you go to a ball game now, I mean, if you go to a Major League Baseball game, hamburgers are like $9.
Yep. So
you can still get a dog for like under $4 most of the time. Mm-hmm. And I think the only time I eat hot dogs, really, I go out of my way to eat a hot dog is at a baseball game. It just seems natural to me. And, outside of that, I take supplements for the snouts and knuckles that I'm not getting while I eat a hot dog. Because I swear that's what's in those things, right?
Yeah, snouts, knuckles. Oh god, yeah. Who knows? Yeah, my mom
Gross
never
stuff like that.
let us eat hot dogs. I ate hot dogs when I went to friends' houses. My mom was like, "No, you're not eating those things."
You had to sneak a hot dog into your house, yeah. Right. So mom doesn't see you eating it. All right. Well, it's that kind of thing. Have a good you're off for a while, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm off the 3rd and 4th.
Kat gets 2 days off. That doesn't happen very often.
No, it does not. I'm very excited.
I'm sitting here thinking to myself, I don't even know if I'm off the 3rd. I know I'm off the 4th, but I'm not sure.
Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins.
Yeah. And maybe just me. Who knows? We'll see.
Maybe
all right.
Just Robbins.
Have a good weekend. Happy birthday, America.
Happy birthday, America. See you later, Scott Robbins. We'll be back, folks, on the other side. This is The Morning Buzz. packed show for you today. It's going to be a long weekend for some of you. Today is the start of a long 4th of July holiday weekend. And when it comes to hot dog toppings, mustard, relish, they're the norm, right, folks? And some foodies say never ketchup. I am not a ketchup, at least not as an adult. I don't like ketchup. What do you say? What's the best topping for a hot dog? Go ahead, send it in via a text, 309-451-9299. 150 million people are going to be eating hot dogs this weekend. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of hot dogs. I do like the pickle, the tomato, and these little pepperoncinis. If I were to have a hot dog, it would be like loaded up with all of the vegetables. 309-451-9299. A popular Instagram makeup artist recently used her talents to help a cancer patient. And this is one of the most heartwarming stories I've seen in a long time. Her name's Sabrina. I don't know who she is really. I don't follow the makeup stuff so much, but she has on Instagram 13,000 followers, over 80,000 on TikTok. And she recently was chatting with a woman on a flight. And the woman mentioned how she was battling cancer for the past few years, and she's been receiving treatments, and it's devastated her hair and her skin. And uh, she had been very healthy before her hair and skin. Now, Sabrina offered to give her a full makeover right there in the seat on the airplane, and Sabrina was actually caught on video. So, one of these things is this is really cool because it wasn't like she had this massive following. She could have taken the video herself and said that she was going to do this makeover for this woman with cancer and kind of, point out her good deed, but she didn't. She was caught on video. Um, and this is so sweet. Audrey Harrison, who is the woman with cancer, her daughter wrote this. This is my mama. She's been going through cancer treatments and surgery for the last 3 years. She has always had amazing skin and hair. The chemo has really dried out both. And she does all these lotions, masks, but she really struggles with the change. And seeing her love this new look that this makeup artist on the plane did for her brought me to tears. Thanks so much for being sweet to my mama. Isn't that so sweet? It's a good news story here for your Friday. Coming up, what are we going to be talking about? A self-proclaimed Democrat sends out this racist tweet and she tries to backpedal from it. And it doesn't work. And it's quite hilarious. Her name is Erica Marsh. She's a blue check lib. And she throws out this tweet, and I just can't believe how racist it is. And of course, it deals with, I mean, if you were to play Twitter roulette, I like to play this all of the time. I close my eyes, I scroll on Twitter, and then I land on a tweet. If you were to play that game with yourself, you would probably find that you wind up landing on a leftist who's whining about the Supreme Court siding on the right side of history yesterday and voting against affirmative action. So I'll be talking about that, Dem. And then also a little bit later, this story about a police officer in Canada telling this guy over the phone that, yeah, it's not illegal for naked men to prance around in front of children. Why? Because it's during a pride parade and it's not okay any other time. But the pride parade exempts these people and allows them to be naked in front of children. That and more ahead on the Morning Buzz. Good morning. Thanks so much for tuning in to the live stream. I so do appreciate it. We've got all kinds of things rolling in here this morning. I love waking up and then I'm like, you get the news from yesterday a lot of the time. And then by the 8 o'clock hour, there's so much more news. So today I clicked on this story and it's quite interesting. This guy, he is a man from Toronto. He's a Canadian TikToker. He goes by the name Robert Primo. He's got a ton of followers, a ton of likes, millions of people watch his videos. And this guy actually decided, this TikToker, to call the police in Toronto over a naked man exposing their genitals to children during this gay pride parade. Now, the cop says it's okay during the pride parade. But it's not okay in other situations, which is quite hilarious. So again, Robert Primo, he gets on there. He's a YouTuber. He's a TikToker, social media guy. And he calls the police and goes, I just want to make sure I'm not working outside of any laws or anything like that. If you want to be out in the street, you have to be fully clothed, right? You can't go naked and just run around in the street. And the cop goes, yeah, naked people running around in the street, that would be like a form of mental illness. He goes, people do that, but that's a form of mental illness. And he goes, okay, I agree with you on that one. I'm having a hard time because yesterday, referring to the Pride Parade, I've seen a bunch of people naked in front of these children. And I saw men with their penises out in front of children. And I'm wondering if that's acceptable. And he goes, that's part of the Pride Parade. That's what you're talking about. And the guy answered, yes, well, that's what that is what I'm talking about. And he goes, yeah, that's a problem every year. And he goes, I mean, it happens every year. And then Primo, the TikToker, the Canadian TikToker, gets on there and he's like, wait, so let me clarify something. If it happens at a gay pride parade, it's fine. That's basically what this guy was saying. And the cop actually um says, yes, that's exactly right. Just because you're at a gay pride parade, it kind of gives you a pass. So tell me again that the LGBTQ community is actually marginalized. If you're watching right now, smash the like button. It helps us out. Share this video out with your normie friends and subscribe to the channel. Now, we are also going to be talking about CNN. They got out there and they went, of course, as CNN does, they exaggerate, they sensationalized this Supreme Court of the United States, siding with the right side of history here, and they ruled against the racist affirmative action. And CNN, they exaggerated it. And again, this court ruling, it only pertains to Harvard and University of North Carolina. So it's these two universities. However, Supreme Court precedent is very substantial, and other universities should be looking at this and, not committing not committing crimes against the Constitution, right? And they should be following the Constitution. The Supreme Court ruled that this was a violation of the 14th Amendment. There's an equal protection clause under the 14th Amendment. And they said that this was in violation. Affirmative action is in violation of that. So other universities should hop on and realize, hey, affirmative action isn't great. So they have corrected another awful 70s mistake, the Supreme Court, and I'm glad. But CNN, doing as CNN does, they exaggerate and they sensationalize, and they said, affirmative action being ruled against means that the military won't be able to fight in war. Yes, they say that our wars are going to wind up not being fought well, and we're all going to die. And our wars, our men and women in uniform will not be able to perform well. See, this is where I can't wrap my head around it, because the military and war, I don't know, and maybe you guys can chime in here. I feel like that's the one place where merit and your ability to be in the military, like, there has to be a standard for you to be in the military. You can't go out there and if you're crippled, right? If you're in a wheelchair, if you're paralyzed, or if you're a certain weight, right? If you can't move and you can't walk, most likely they're not going to allow you to go out onto the battlefield. And this is the one place where merit should be the sole deciding factor on whether or not you go out and you see combat or you're in some sort of military combat situation. Uh, I don't understand how race plays a part in that at all. Right? It doesn't matter if you're black, white, you're dying for your country. I just don't see where it matters. So they try to say that because these admirals and these generals, they're out there, and come on, these generals, these admirals, they're clearly trying to push some sort of political agenda. Like, look who their commander in chief is right now. It's Joe Biden. Of course, they're going to get out there for political reasons and say, hey, we being the experts, we think that affirmative action is good for war. And we can't fight wars unless we have X, Y, or an X number of black people in our military, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense at all. But this is what is called the authority fallacy. They think, CNN, that the Supreme Court should just blindly say yes, yes to whatever the experts say. But what they're missing is that the Supreme Court justices are actually their own experts. Okay, they're the experts in the U.S. Constitution. They're the ones who decide what's constitutional, what's not. And they're missing that. They think that these experts should be the ones who decide things like affirmative action. But sorry, The Supreme Court justices are actually the experts in this one, in this case. Before the break, I was telling you a little bit about a self-proclaimed proud Democrat. She sends out this racist tweet, and then she tries to backpedal, and of course it doesn't work. I've got that story here coming up. And then we are going to be getting into the Supreme Court of the United States ruling and how CNN declares that the Supreme Court United States ruling, the decision here on affirmative action, will, quote, destroy our military. Wait, what? The sensationalism here is incredible. CNN is exaggerating here, and they're participating in what I call the authority fallacy. So they think that because a bunch of generals and admirals, they got out there and they were like, oh, this is bad for the military. They think that the Supreme Court of the United States, these justices should be listening to the experts. But what you're missing here, CNN, is that the Supreme Court justices, they're the actual experts in deciding what's constitutional and what's not. And that's exactly what the Supreme Court did. They held that Harvard and the University of North Carolina admissions programs actually violate a little something called the Equal Protection Clause under the 14th Amendment. So we are going to be talking about CNN and how they're sensationalizing this decision. Next, the issue every year. This is the issue every year, says a police officer from Canada. So this TikToker, he's got a lot of followers, millions of views. He called the police and he tried to ask him about the naked men in front of kids at this Toronto Pride Parade. And the cop says, yeah, that is illegal. You can't prance around naked in front of kids any other time, but during a Pride Parade, it's okay. Uh-huh. Oh, okay. A little bit later, we are also going to be talking about the Allen, Texas body cam footage. This was just released, and it just shows the true heroism of this cop, and it's just incredible. So all of this and more ahead on the Morning Buzz. As always, I'm live in studio. You can check it out. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. I'm there. Subscribe to the channel. And if you're watching the video right now, just smash that like button. Smash the like button. I see you watching. Are you afraid? Are you afraid to smash the like button? Are you afraid that your friends are going to think that you're some sort of right-wing extremist if you like this program? All of this and more here on the Morning Buzz. Let's go. This Democrat, she's self-proclaimed Democrat. She's on Twitter. Her name is Erica Marsh. This is what she says in her tweet. Quote, today's Supreme Court decision is a direct attack on Black people. No Black person will be able to succeed in a merit-based system, which is exactly why affirmative action-based programs were needed. Today's decision is a travesty, all caps. Then she goes on, she says, House Democrats will be introducing legislation that would expand the Supreme Court to 13 seats. Disgusting, a terrible legislation. Raise your hand if you support expanding the Supreme Court. And everybody listening to the Morning Buzz here with Kat Peterson kept their hands down. Today, the Supreme Court decision is a direct attack on Black people. No Black person will be able to succeed in a merit-based system, which is exactly why affirmative action-based programs were needed. That's racist. That's racist. So a few hours later, after receiving all kinds of backlash for her racist tweet, she sent out, the typical clarification. She goes, it wasn't me, it was the ultra MAGA Republicans. So she goes, she then later, a few hours later, this Erica Marsh, blue checkmark Twitter Democrat, she gets out there and she says, quote, I want to emphasize that my statement in no way suggests that Black individuals are less intelligent than people of other races. My intention of the tweet is to highlight that prior to affirmative action, there existed a supposedly merit-based system for Black individuals to gain admissions to colleges. However, these institutions employed racial profiling that prevented Black individuals from attending under the guise of this merit-based system. So she gives look, I'm just going to point this out. I'm quoting you here, lady. No black person will ever be able to succeed in a meritocracy, which is why they were created. That's what you said. That's what you said. You said that this system, this meritocracy system, was created so that black people wouldn't be able to succeed. What? You don't think that black people can succeed in a meritocracy, that they don't have merit? I mean, that's what you said. That's what you meant. That's what you believe. It's okay. Your progressive indoctrination here, lady. Your white your white guilt is showing here. Now you can start this little thing I call a transformative process. It takes you from being a mindless zombie into an independent thinker. Okay. All right. Do want to shift gears here. Real quick, RFK Jr., a very special guy. I'm just going to say that this was a clip that I found of RFK Jr. And I don't know. He's just something very special about this guy. Let's take a listen. Here we go.
You say that you're a Democrat, but you're getting a lot of support from a lot of leading voices on the right, like Steve Bannon, Tucker Carlson, Alex Jones, former President Donald Trump. Many Democrats fear that you're a spoiler in the race, that you will damage President Biden in the primary and grease the skids for former President Trump to return to the Oval Office. This week, former President Trump said about you, Kennedy is smart and he's a common sense guy. What kind of man do you think Donald Trump is?
Well, here's what I'm not going to do in this race. I'm not going to attack other people personally. I don't think it's good for our country. And I think, what I'm trying to do in this race is bring people together, is to try to bridge the divide between Americans. And guess what? When my dad died and we took this train ride from, this 7.5-hour train ride that was supposed to be 2 hours, I was with him when he died in Los Angeles. And then we brought his body from New York, Penn Station to Union Station and Washington, D.C. And it was a 2.5-hour ride, but it took 7.5 hours because there were 2.5 million people on that train track. And it was a cross-section of America, and all of the major urban stations in Trenton, Newark, Wilmington, and Baltimore. There were Black Americans singing Battle Hymn of the Republic. There were whites in the rural areas who are holding up signs, "Goodbye, Bobby, pray for us, Bobby," American flags, standing, saluting. 4 years later, and they had supported my father in the primaries in 1968. 4 years later, in 1972, they were not supporting my father, and they were not supporting George McGovern, who was aligned with my father on all these issues. Instead, the vast majority of them were supporting George Wallace. And, my father was able to harness these populist energies. In the last day of his life, he won the most rural state in this country, South Dakota, and the most urban. He was able to bridge the divide among people who would otherwise be Republican, but wanted somebody who was common sense, who was able to appeal to their idealism, who was able to find the hero in each of them, who was able to get them to transcend narrow self-interest and see themselves as part of a community and part of this, incredible American adventure in modeling self-governance for the rest of the world. And so I'm proud that President Trump likes me, even though I don't agree with him on most of his issues. Because I don't want to alienate people. I want to bring people together.
Truly special. That's RFK Jr. on News Nation. There was a town hall they had with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. And yeah, I mean, he just said, look, we don't alienate people. And he goes, that's not what I'm going to do here in this race. And you right now, you journalismer, you're trying to get me to say that I don't like or to call Donald Trump all kinds of names. That's not going to work. It's not going to work because I'm about bringing people together. That's definitely not what Joe Biden did in regards to the Supreme Court of the United States. He pretty much put the Supreme Court of the United States on blast. How could you do that to the institution, the history, the power that the Supreme Court of the United States has? Like, how could you do that? which brings me to this story, CNN declaring that the Supreme Court of the United States decision on affirmative action will, quote, destroy the military. Wait, what? That's a bit of a stretch, don't you think? So CNN, I like to play this game. I get on my cell phone, I close my eyes, and then I start to scroll on Twitter. It's called Twitter Roulette. And I land on a post, and that's what I kind of, pull, or I kind of try to read about it. So yesterday, if you were playing Twitter Roulette, like I like to do, you would land on a leftist whining about the Supreme Court decision and how they were siding on the right side of they were on the right side of history yesterday, and they voted against affirmative action. I landed on Laura Coates. Laura Coates, the Supreme Court of the United States decision is going to ruin everything. That's what she says, from IKEA to the American military being able to fight a war. Yes, war. So keep in mind, all the decision really does, it rules against these racist admission policies at Harvard, North Carolina. We're finally giving the Asian community a voice. Laura Coates, here she is. Let's take a listen. She goes the full blown sensationalism here on CNN. Here we go.
Stare decisis, as you attorneys call it, it's no longer in this case. What do you make of this decision and what it means to those going to college now and to the universities themselves?
Well, I don't think we can even overstate the role that race has played in our society as a country. And it also is a very big part of one's identity. And so part of the college admissions process is the practice of a student, a potential applicant, detailing why they believe their identity and being ought to be an additive addition to a particular school. Now, it'll be very hard for an admissions process and an admissions office to delineate between how a student views themselves and their identity and what can now be considered in practice. An example that came up during the Supreme Court oral arguments is the idea of, well, what about a student who is writing about their personal identity as it relates to their race? Is the admissions office to look at that essay, burn it, throw it out and say, I cannot see this here because it deals with race? And I want to read for you a quick notion here. I know we're short on time, but the monumental consequence of the decision cannot be overstated. Everyone from Apple to IKEA to Starbucks joined in briefs to talk about racial diversity, improving decision-making by increasing creativity, communication, and accuracy. Some of the largest law firms in our country spoke about the private bar and the legal profession benefiting from a diverse pool of talent from which to recruit. Retired admirals, a group of them, and generals also told the court that, quote, diversity in the halls of academia directly affects performance in the theaters of war.
There you have it, folks. Laura Coates, she's from CNN, and I believe that she's siding here with the I'm not a biologist, Ketanji Brown Jackson, and her whole this is what is called an appeal to authority. It's a legal theory where the Supreme Court justices should not follow, or should just follow. They just should nod their heads to the experts who tell them what to do for their rulings. That's what she believes, this CNN journalismer, okay? And Ketanji Brown Jackson believes the same thing. I was under the impression, and I thought that we're all under the impression that the Supreme Court justices were the experts here in interpreting the Constitution. Duh. And then she goes as far as to say this: the military they're not going to be able to fight wars if they don't have affirmative action. Look, our military is the one place where merit and your ability should be the sole deciding factor. Literal life or death is on the line. Like I say, the military, right, should be the one place where merit only, ability only, flying an airplane, all of these things, right? Literal life and death is on the line. And you'll have to forgive me if I question whether these admirals that she talks about, these generals, if they're being sincere here and they're thinking that, and without affirmative action, we won't be able to win wars. I'm sorry, but I think you're doing this for political reasons, Mr. General, Mr. Admiral. Have you met your commander-in-chief? Duh, no wonder. I mean, come on. Yes. She talks about this too. She says, IKEA, Apple, Starbucks, they're not going to hire people anymore who are Black. And it's just like, what? Wait, what? No, nothing is stopping Starbucks, IKEA, Apple. Nothing is stopping these people from hiring Black people anymore just because affirmative action was ruled against. Unless what everyone from Apple to IKEA to Starbucks is saying is that the only reason why they hired a racially diverse pool of recruits is because the law forced them to. And now that the law may or may not force them to, they're not going to they're not going to hire people from a racially diverse pool of recruits. Like that's what you're saying, that Apple only did it and Starbucks only did it because the law forced them to. I do have to switch gears here. Coming up, let's actually take a break. Canadian TikToker Rob Primo was disturbed to see naked men walking around in the street in Toronto, Canada. So he calls the cops and he asks them if it's legal. It turns out it's legal as long as it's at a pride parade. Not any other time, though. Any other time, it's illegal. But at a pride parade, it's legal. Okay, that makes a whole lot of sense. Also, Dylan Mulvaney lashes out at Bud Light, says, while America's beer chooses an influencer of their own. So this is interesting. Dylan Mulvaney comes out and is big mad at Bud Light because I guess the CEO came out. The CEO did say something like, to the effect of, hey, we need to come together. And he didn't like completely side with the transgender people. So I've got the clip here. Dylan Mulvaney breaking his silence about the Anheuser-Busch scandal. So we're going to be back. We're going to, hey, if you're watching right now, do me a favor, smash that likes button, smash it, smash it, smash it. We are going to be talking about Dylan Mulvaney. So he breaks his silence following this whole Bud Light fiasco. So the CEO I covered a couple days ago came out and was talking about, the social conversation. He didn't really apologize. He didn't say it was a mistake. He also didn't come out and just, fervently defend the decision to hire this Dylan Mulvaney character. I guess Dylan Mulvaney is also now blonde, so there's that. So he's broken his silence about the Bud Light debacle that cost the company both tens of billions of dollars, as well as its title of America's most popular beer. So Mulvaney is hurt and upset that no one from Bud Light called to check up on him. On that this is what he says. So I've got the clip here. This is incredible. I can't believe he actually broke his silence. A lot of these people, they don't in public when they're face to face. So I think James O'Keefe actually found Dylan Mulvaney at this hotel and tried to ask him about the Bud Light fiasco, and he like just sprinted away from James O'Keefe and like was like, no way am I ever going to talk to you about this situation, and like was terrified. But of course, in this sphere of TikTok, he gets out there because he can control the situation, and he gets out there and he breaks his silence. He says, I patiently waited for things to get better, but surprise, they haven't really. And I was waiting for the brand to reach out to me, but they never did. For a company to hire a trans person and then not publicly stand by them is worse than not hiring a trans person at all, because it gives customers permission to be transphobic and as hateful as they want. So Dylan Mulvaney choosing now to speak out in response to the Anheuser-Busch CEO, Brendan Whitworth, breaking his public silence on the brouhaha by not addressing the issue and being a big, kind of a big weakling. And he didn't say Dylan Mulvaney's name at all. He didn't even say it was a mistake. All he really did was come out and say that there is a social conversation happening, and we need to do what we're best at, and we need to sell beer. Bud Light has been forced to choose between customers and that sweet ESG money. That's what's going on. So, yeah, this is a really interesting story. We're going to be talking about this here. Ewenling, how do you say that one beer? It's the beer that like was behind Donald Trump. How do you guys say those? Can you guys send me like phonetics? Jungling? I don't know. I don't drink that beer, but I probably should start. So they actually have a new spokesperson, a new video out there. promoting that. So I will also play that. They have a really cool advertisement out there. So we will be back in just a little bit. Oh, my throat's killing me. I'll be right back. Good morning. This is the Morning Buzz. 4th of July weekend. Are you going to have a long weekend? I will be. So quick programming note. On July 3rd and 4th, I will be running some best ofs. They have got some really good content in there. I really thought long and hard about, what clips were I going, what ones were I going to take and replay for you. And a lot of these are local interviews, sit down interviews that I've done with newsmakers in and around the central Illinois area. And it's very important. So be sure to tune in July 3rd and 4th. If you've missed any of those long form interviews, those are going to be helpful for you. So I am going to be off July 3rd and 4th. Happy 4th of July. It's America's birthday, 1776 Independence Day. So big holiday coming up. And yes, I'm sorry, Illinois. I don't care if the fireworks are banned. You guys never enforce it anyway. We're like one of 3 states that have banned fireworks. I'm sorry. I'm going to be shooting off fireworks. So, and I'm going to be watching them. So, try to take away the celebration of America. It doesn't end up well. Okay. Law enforcement doesn't even bother enforcing that stuff. So I'm going to be shooting off fireworks. I'm sure you are too. Now, before we took the break, I was telling you a little bit about Dylan Mulvaney. This just in. He posted the video, I think, yesterday. And I guess Dylan Mulvaney is blonde now. So here's the TikTok performer, Dylan Mulvaney, who's now blonde. He's broken his silence about Bud the whole Bud Light debacle that cost the company literally tens of billions of dollars. A couple of days ago, I ran through the CEO and what he had to say. They've lost tens of billions of dollars, and they also lost the title of America's most popular beer, Bud Light. Now, Milvani is hurt and upset that Bud Light didn't call and check up on him. Now, let's take a listen. He's breaking his silence here, folks. This big news today, Dylan Mulvaney breaking the silence about the Bud Light fiasco. Let's take a listen. Here we go.
Tolerate people saying about me is that I don't like beer, because I love beer and I always have. I built my platform on being honest with you, and what I'm about to tell you might sound like old news, but you know that feeling when you have something uncomfy like sitting on your chest? Well, that's how I feel right now. So this feels like the right thing to do. I took a brand deal with a company that I loved, and I posted a sponsored video to my page. And it must have been a slow news week, because the way that this ad got blown up, you would have thought I was like on a billboard or on a TV commercial or something major. But no, it was just an Instagram video. And the wildest part is that they also sent me one can with my face on it. You might have seen it. And funny story, I had the can around my house, but then I realized, wait, I need to protect this can. So I hid it somewhere, and now I can't find it because I hid it so well. But when I do find it, I feel like it needs to go in a museum, preferably behind bulletproof glass. And you might be thinking, Dylan, why bring it up now? I'm bringing it up because what transpired from that video was more bullying and transphobia than I could have ever imagined. And I should have made this video months ago, but I didn't. And I was scared, and I was scared of more backlash, and I felt personally guilty for what transpired. So I patiently waited for things to get better. But surprise, they haven't really. And I was waiting for the brand to reach out to me, but they never did. And for months now, I've been scared to leave my house. I have been ridiculed in public. I've been followed. And I have felt a loneliness that I wouldn't wish on anyone. And I'm not telling you this because I want your pity. I am telling you this because if this is my experience from a very privileged perspective, know that it is much, much worse for other trans people.
Oh, gosh, there's Dylan Mulvaney breaking his silence there, folks. And he says, I patiently waited for things to get better, but surprise, they haven't really. And, it's just like, I was waiting for the brand to reach out to me, but they never did. Duh, because like, what do you mean? It was one can, and it was just this VP who went rogue, VP of marketing who went rogue. She called you, the Bud Light customer, fratty and out of touch. And Dylan Mulvaney here, he's trying to speak out in response to this. Anheuser-Busch CEO, Brendan Whitworth, breaking his silence about the issue. And really what Brendan, he didn't even address the issue. He didn't say, we're sorry. He didn't say anything to that effect. He was a big weakling and didn't even bother mentioning Dylan Mulvaney's name. We've got a special guest on the studio, on the line, the studio line, David Paul Blumenshine joining me. DPB, your thoughts here on Dylan Mulvaney and breaking the silence here. Look, Bud Light, they were forced to choose between their customers and that sweet, sweet ESG money, and they've been trying to apologize, but they still haven't really apologized. DPB, your thoughts?
Well, Kat, I don't know if you realize this or not, but it's Chuck and I.
Oh,
we're on our way to Wrigley Field. We're two frat boys going up to Wrigley Field to throw back a couple old styles.
Old styles. Oh, so not the Dylan Mulvaney Bud Light beer.
No, we won't be drinking any Bud Light today, Kat. We won't be drinking any Bud Light. We hope there's a Cup victory today. There is a big race going on in Chicago this weekend, FYI.
Yes, the NASCAR race.
So we're going to have to avoid that. But yeah, no, it seems it's very interesting that all the people that are in leadership positions are named Brendan. What is it? What's the guy's name?
Brendan?
The CEO of Brendan.
Brendan.
Not Brandon. Oh, I thought it was Brandon. Let's go, Brandon.
I just can't believe it.
Yeah, I mean, I saw the video. Chuck, did you see the video of Dylan Mulvaney basically saying that it shouldn't be political, that we support the trans
I
community?
really don't try to pay much attention to Dylan Mulvaney. I can avoid her.
Can you hear us okay, Kat? Because, we're on the hands-free.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Conscientious conservatives.
I can hear you.
We're conscientious conservatives that follow the law.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Go Cubs, go.
Go Cubs, go. So the Cubs are playing in Wrigley Field. You guys are on your way there. Hopefully you guys see a little bit of that. You're not there for the race. So I think the race is it tomorrow? It might start tomorrow. I don't know.
I think it's Sunday.
It's Sunday.
Sunday?
Sunday.
Okay.
Sunday. And actually something happened because I did see a piece on Jimmy Johnson, 7-time NASCAR champion. Sounds like he's got something major happening in his family. So our thoughts and prayers go out to Jimmy Johnson, because he was going to drive the 84 car on Sunday. And, it's a race that he's never done because it's never happened. This is the Lori Lightfoot race.
Yes. And I'm really excited for it, but I don't know. I hope that the diehard NASCAR fans go out there and, try to boost the economy a bit. But me, I'm a NASCAR fan, and I'm actively avoiding Chicago. And I feel like there's going to be a lot of that. People just avoid Chicago. So I don't know. I'm sure it's NASCAR. Come on. There's going to be a lot of crowds. That's 4th of July weekend, right? But
what if they had F1 there? If they had F1 in Chicago, would you be there?
Oh, yeah. If Formula One was there, oh, gosh. But come on now. Formula One tickets are insane. The NASCAR tickets were insane, too, which was another reason. I was like, I'm not paying to go up there and potentially get shot. Right. And it was like the tickets were wild. So what I'm doing this weekend is actually going to the Lincoln dirt races. I like the Fairbury dirt races, but I've never been to the Lincoln dirt races. So I'm really excited to go there. And they have them all summer long, which is pretty cool. So I'm a big racer. I like racing.
Well, and most people in the environment of the racing community will tell you that true racing is on dirt and not on pavement.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
I don't know if you're aware of that or not, Kat. Hey, Kat, did you cover it already with Joe Biden in the interview that he did with Nicole Wallace?
Yes, I did. The MSNBC Nicole Wallace. He's sitting there. I can't stop watching it. Like, I'm addicted to that clip because it's so funny.
Walk behind her.
Yeah.
And it's so sad. I mean, it's so sad. And people are saying, well, the Republicans are pouncing on this situation, that he's the world leader. He's got places to go. He's got things to do.
Oh, I knew that. I knew it. I haven't even seen that part of it, and I was like, they're gonna say that he had to go, and because he's the world leader.
He's an important person. Biden economics is taking foot. He's got a lot to work on here, but he had to just get up and go. And bottom line is, it's so cruel. It's elder abuse. What is happening in this man's life? And you know what? We all know it. He's going to be replaced within the next 6 months.
Yeah. I would not be shocked if the DNC comes out and they try to pull some. It's not going to be RFK Jr. We know that. But I'm sure they're going to come out and try to find somebody to replace Joey. But you guys have fun. Yeah. You guys are on your way.
We're going to have fun. Yeah, we're jumping on the interstate right now. 2 frat boys headed up to Wrigley Field to drink a couple old style beers.
Well, you guys have fun. Hey, folks, if you're listening out there, go ahead, call in. Let me know what your 4th of July weekend plans are, where you're going. If you're traveling, call in right now. All you have to do is dial in to 309-451-9299. I'll take your calls. Your reaction to Bud Light, the CEO, I played that a little bit yesterday. Coming out and not really apologizing about making the mistake of hiring Dylan Mulvaney on as this trans TikToker influencer. And then now Dylan Mulvaney reacting to the CEO, responding to the tens of billions lost, billions of dollars lost, and Bud Light no longer having the title as America's most popular beer. DPB, Chuck, you guys have a great rest of your day. We are going to be talking about Bud Light. Call in right now if you want to have a take. I don't take calls often, so this is your chance, folks, to call in and give me some thoughts about the Bud Light fiasco. Give me some thoughts. Have you participated in the boycott? Do you think that we should continue participating in the boycott? It turns out that Dylan Mulvaney is big mad at Bud Light. So does that mean we start drinking Bud Light again? Nah, I'm going to continue to boycott Bud Light. Now, this brings me to this story, the Gay Pride Parade that happened in Canada. Robert Primo, he was disturbed to see naked men walking around in the street in front of little children. So he called the cops to ask, hey, is this legal? And it turns out it is legal if it's done at a pride parade. So I have to take a break. We're going to come back. We're going to talk about the Canadian TikToker, Rob Primo, coming out and talking to the cops about this situation with these naked men dancing in front of children. And I'm going to take your calls. Call in at 309-451-9299. We can just have a chat about anything in the news if you want. So we're going to be talking about Canada, Toronto, of course, because we've got Toronto having this gay pride parade, which was sponsored by Bud Light, mind you, and these naked men prancing around in front of children. This guy calls the police and he says, hey, is this legal? And the cops say, yeah, it is, because it's at a pride parade. It wouldn't be legal in any other way, in any other situation. We're going to be back, folks. I'm taking your calls. Be sure to call in at 309-451-9299. You can text that number as well. Text me in your thoughts. We are going to be talking about this Canadian TikToker. He winds up calling the police and asking, hey, is this legal for gay men to be having their dinglings hanging out in front of kids? And the cop essentially says, yeah, it's okay because it's at a gay pride event. If it was any other event, then it would be an issue. So we are going to be talking about that. Plus, there was some body cam footage that was released. This is truly an act of heroism. In Allen, Texas, there was body cam footage that was released. This cop, he was just talking to some kids and the kids' mother about the importance of seatbelts. And then all of a sudden, he hears pow, pow, pow at the Allen Mall in Texas. And then he just runs towards the gunfire. This is truly incredible. The body cam footage, it just makes your heart sink into your stomach. Just wow. The situation he was in, the Allen Police Department released a statement saying the video shows how quickly a routine interaction with the public could turn into a life-death situation. The officer recognized the danger and then he ran toward the gunfire, neutralized the threat, and for his actions, the Allen community is forever grateful. On May 6th, the gunman murdered 8 people, including 3 children, and injured 10 more when he shot up an outdoor mall in Allen, Texas. Had it not been for this officer's bravery, the event would have been more tragic. Yes, this was truly scary, terrifying to watch this body cam footage. And then in the video, you can hear him. He goes, I'm on foot. I need everybody. I've got a real mass shooter. I'm moving as fast as I can. Then the officer spots the shooter. And then, I mean, in half a dozen seconds or so, he shoots him. I mean, and he goes, I got him down. I got him down. Wow. incredible. Today is social media day. Isn't that every day? I would spend way too much time on social media, probably about 14 hours a day, if I had to guess, right? I spend way too much time on social media, and it's going to be nice to unplug. Programming, no, I will not be live on Facebook, YouTube, for you guys listening on the 3rd and on the 4th. I am taking a break, a much needed long holiday for the 4th of July. 4th of July is a big holiday for me, as I love America, right? 1776, it's the birthday of America, Independence Day. So I've got some special programming for you on both the 3rd and the 4th. What are your 4th of July plans? Go ahead, text me, comment. We do have a caller on the line. We're going to talk about the Canadian TikToker out there, and he is talking with the police, and the police just outright say, "Yeah, well, just because it's at a gay pride parade, it's totally fine." It's like, what? That's insanity. You can hear it in the cop's voice too. Like, he knows the words coming out of his mouth. It's just ridiculous. He knows he's a few years probably left of retirement, and this is what Canadians get for re-electing a walking pile of soy and hair gel goop, right? Who is Justin Trudeau. This is what you get. And you can't claim that you are marginalized if you're granted extra rights that other people don't get. If other people don't get to run around naked in the streets, you can't claim that, you're marginalized because you get to do that. You get all these other rights. A little bit later, we will be talking about the Allen, Texas cop. He's truly a hero. I'm telling you, this body cam footage is insane. He goes from talking to some kids about a seatbelt and the importance of a seatbelt, and then he runs toward gunfire, and it is just going to blow your mind. Folks, before I took the break, I was telling you about this TikToker in Canada, and he goes out there and he has a conversation with some cops about the gay pride parade in Toronto, which was sponsored by Bud Light. Naturally. And the cop on the phone call says, yeah, because it's a gay pride parade, it is legal to prance around naked with little kids watching. Caller on the line. Caller, I didn't catch your name through the break. Your name, and tell me a little bit about what you think about these gay pride parades and people literally running around naked, showing their ding-a-ling.
Well, like I said before, I don't necessarily obviously condone that kind of behavior, whether it's at a parade, an open sidewalk, or even just in public in general. However, I do have to give note to the fact of you can't really necessarily complain if you brought your child to the parade. Not saying that every parade should be an option where nudity would be acceptable. However, it is a gay pride parade. If you don't stand for what that is being held for, then why did you bring your child to begin with? Yes. It's not necessarily defending the behaviors, but I'm also giving defense to the fact that where's your line of responsibility to protect your child if that's not something that you potentially aren't wanting to see? I mean, I'm sure there was other behaviors and other maybe things that you don't agree with that were happening at the parade, and yet is that okay for you to bring your child to? So I guess I'm a little conflicted with what the concern is, because as we say, what you see is what you get.
Right. I mean, it's like, Canadians, why are you like shocked by this? You keep reelecting this guy, Justin Trudeau, who's a literal walking pile of soy, and you keep reelecting him. This is what you get for reelecting people like that, and like a gay pride parade. And you point out something great, because caller, one thing that I noticed was that, people are outraged about this, people walking around naked at a gay pride. This has been going on for years. I mean, last year this was going on, and even the guy in this video, which I'm going to play here in just a second, the cop says we deal with this every year. This happens every year. So I think more people are awake, and they're realizing that kids are out at these things and that parents are doing this where they're taking their kids out at this thing. And that's why it's in the news. Like, how could you be doing this in front of children? But parents have been doing this for years at these gay pride parades. It's just now people are waking up and realizing that parents are taking their kids out to these things. But caller, thanks so much for tuning in.
Thank you so much. And like I said, if we're sitting at a 4th of July parade in Bloomington, Illinois, and that's something that we're there to celebrate America and wholesomeness, American values, and someone streaks naked, then the blasphemy would be, oh my goodness, there's nudity. Somebody needs to do something about it. But yet, at a gay pride parade, again, the whole thing is about freedom of expression. So clearly, I'm just really kind of shocked that people are even complaining when you yourself should be the one that should complaining about your behavior, bringing your own child to such an event.
Right, exactly. Hey, thanks so much for your name. I didn't catch your name.
Thank you. This is Dawn.
Dawn, very nice to talk. Oh, Dawn, nice to talk with you,
Yes.
Dawn. You have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. Have a blessed one.
All right, folks, taking your calls on the other side. I will be playing that audio here of the cop, his response here to this gentleman who says, hey, is this illegal? Can men be prancing around in front of kids while naked? I will be playing that audio, plus the video, the body cam footage. There's audio that pairs with it. This cop who just runs towards gunfire at this Allen Mall shooting. It's been released. This shooting took place on May 6th in Allen, Texas, and the guy's a hero. Good morning, friends. I hope that you are safe from those thunderstorms. Looks like Lincoln got it pretty bad. Atlanta, Springfield, a little bit further south than Bloomington. I did hear that people in South Bloomington did get some power outages. There's thousands of people without power. So I always find it helpful to go to Ameren and report those power outages if you experience that. A lot of trees down. So this storm, I don't know why, but there was a lot of tree damage. I have a theory. Perhaps it's because of the drought. The trees are dry and it just made them like easy to break. It was like breaking a straw, right? It was like the trees were just very brittle, and that's why we're seeing a bunch of trees down. That wind really just took them out. So one thing I wanted to talk about today was also the body cam footage, but also I wanted to talk about the fentanyl. So that's what I'm going to pull up here is the fentanyl story. And full disclaimer, if you have somebody in your life who has died from fentanyl overdose, this is going to be a heartbreaking story for you. So fentanyl is getting worse. We know this. Let me pull up the numbers here. I've got it. Should have pulled this up. I was thinking about it yesterday. Okay, so there's an unprecedented amount of fentanyl that is causing overdoses in not just adults, but children. So, Portland police are investigating 3 overdoses involving children between the ages of 1 and 3 years of age in the last 2 weeks. So, this is concerning. The Portland Police Bureau has warned the community of a disturbing rise in the number of fentanyl overdoses involving young children. In just the past 2 weeks, they're investigating 3 cases wherein babies and toddlers were exposed to a deadly amount of drugs. Amid the unprecedented spike in such incidences, the Portland police have urged users of fentanyl as far away from children as possible, pointing out that the drug may look like candy. This is so sad. I mean, a 3-year-old overdosing on fentanyl. This is just ridiculous. caller. How are you? Good, good, good. Your name? Jim. Okay, we're gonna come back. What you want to talk about? Okay. Yep. Mhm. Yeah, let me put you on hold. We're back in about 10 seconds and we'll have about a few minutes. Okay. This is the shortest segment, but we'll be right back, Jim. Okay. Hold on. Oh, well, thanks, Jim. Hold on one sec. Good morning. This is the Morning Buzz. Happy 4th of July. 4th of July holiday weekend for many. I do have a veteran on the line, Jim. He called in during the break. We're talking about this gay pride stuff that was going on in Toronto, Canada. But of course, we know that it happened in Chicago, Seattle, everywhere. Here in Bloomington, there was gay pride parades going on. Jim, your thoughts on all of it?
I'm just fed up with it. As a veteran, I can't see how we keep conducting these indoctrinations on our children. It just doesn't work for this country. And then they put the gay parade between two American flags on the White House. It's so disrespectful to the veterans and anybody that supported this country by wearing the uniform. It just disgusts me to my core.
Yeah, and then also, did you see the people who were naked? It was these transgender
Yes,
folk
I did.
on the White House
that-
lawn.
Oh yeah, and that's what I'm getting at. That to allow something like that is so disrespectful, not only to the country, but to the people that defended this country, to give people the right to be stupid. I mean, don't get me wrong, but being stupid is not a reason to be ignorant and obscene.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, well, thanks so much for calling in, Jim, and thank you for your service. I really do
Well,
appreciate your
I
service.
appreciate that. Thank you, and Kat, please continue doing what you're doing. You're doing a great job.
Thanks, Jim. You have a great rest of your day. While I'm up there watching some fireworks, I'm not sure where I'm going to watch fireworks yet. We do have on cities929.com a list of where you can find fireworks. While I'm watching fireworks, I'm going to be thinking of my new friend, Jim, and how he made sacrifices for this country, being a member of the armed forces of the military. So thank you, Jim, for your service. And folks, be sure to go to cities929.com. Check out where the fireworks are. We've got it broken down for you by county. So if you're in Logan County, Livingston County, McLean County, whatever county you're in, we have a list of where you can go find fireworks. It's all there at cities929.com on our front homepage. You guys have a great rest of your day. Happy birthday, America, 1776. Glenn Beck is up after me. And again, programming note, folks, I won't be in studio, so I won't be on the Facebook Live, YouTube Live. I won't be answering calls or text messages. So if you call, you won't get an answer. On both Monday and Tuesday, I will be off taking a much needed break. Thank you to Mike Donaldson. He texted me in and he said, God bless, get some rest. You guys get some rest. It's a good thing to, take a break and relax a little bit. Take a break from the news and just relax. Read a little bit of your Bible, maybe, before the fireworks start on the 4th of July. You guys have a great one. Bye-bye. Love you.